All right, we're going to continue with day 10 of the Schaefer-Cox trial transcript. This particular file is 169 pages long. This transcript is, I think, of Olson. It's on May the 22nd of 2012. Here we go. Anchorage, Alaska, Tuesday, May 22nd, 2012. Gerald Olson, direct. Call to order of the court at 8:31. Jury not present. All parties present. All rise. His Honor, the corrupt honor of the court, the United States Corrupt Court of the District of Alaska is now in session. The corrupt Robert J. Bryan is presiding. Please be seated. Good morning. Good morning, Your Honor. Where's our witness? You can resume the witness stand. Okay, this is that Hell's Angel criminal FBI informant, drug addict, and outstanding in his field, Mr. Scrocky. Oh, anything preliminary this morning? Not from us. Okay, bring the jury in. Good morning, folks. We're ready to continue with Mr. Olson. Mr. Scrocky, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Olson, during the course of your work on this investigation for the FBI, who told you or directed you about who to record or when to record them? Agent Sutherland. Were there occasions where you had become involved in meetings where you ran into individuals connected to the investigation you had not yet received permission to record? Yes, there were. And when you got into that situation, did you go back to see Agent Sutherland? Yes. And were you receiving direction from him after that to record new individuals to the investigation? Yes, like he was adding new ones, all the time, it seemed like. Okay, and you would sign a document with respect to that? Yes, I would. If I can have your attention to what we've marked as Exhibit 11-1, just scan that briefly for me, Mr. Olson. Okay. Okay, can you orient the jury as to where this conversation has taken place and where you're at? This one's on Sunday after the militia meetings, we went back to Bill Fulton's motel room. Okay, and who's present during this conversation? Lonnie Vernon, myself, and Fulton. And in terms of the nature of the conversation, what's going to occur here? We're going to make a call to Schaefer. Fulton wanted to talk business, but since Schaefer was the colonel, he needed permission from him to talk business with us. All right, Scrocky, publish 11-1. Audio played, audio ended. Mr. Olson, we've frozen the video here at 11-1, and whose hotel room are you in? Bill Fulton's. Okay, and did you know you were being audio recorded and video recorded at this time? I knew the audio was recording because I had a recording device on me, but I had no idea of the video. Another device in the room you didn't know about? No, I didn't. Who's this gentleman right here to the left? That's Bill Fulton. And in the center, Lonnie Vernon. It looks like he's drinking a beer, can you tell? Yeah, or a can of Gatorade or a bottle of Gatorade or something there. And then, I can't tell. You're over here to the right? Yes, I don't believe we were drinking that night. I don't remember. Okay, for sure, but I don't think so. Scrocky, thanks, Sean. You had another conversation in the hotel room with Mr. Vernon and Mr. Fulton? Yes, we did. That's reflected on 11-2. Yes, it continued on from the whole con. It was all part of the same conversation. All right, if we can have the lights, Denali, thanks. And if we could play 11-2, audio played. So, Mr. Olson, you're looking at Mr. Fulton to provide you what from that conversation? Grenades and fuses. I want you guys to understand what's going on here. Who's in the room? You got Lonnie Vernon, Bill Fulton, and Gerald Olson. So 2/3 of the people in the freaking room are criminal FBI informants. and you got Bill Fulton trying to provide grenades and fuses to Olson. And Lonnie Vernon sitting there participating in the discussion, got 2/3 of the people in the freaking room as government informants and criminals of that.
And who's in jail?
Yeah, exactly. And who's in jail? The young guy who was speaking liberty and talking about how bad the Federal Reserve is. This is the most insane situation I can't even begin to imagine. Just imagine, like...
They got the wrong guy in jail.
Yeah, exactly. And the conversation takes a turn from grenades and fuses to other types of explosives. Yeah. There's C4 was discussed. Okay, that's what rednecks do, is talk around. I mean, I'm not making a excuse for it, but you got 2/3 of the people in the room bringing up explosives. Poor Lonnie, man. And with respect to Mr. Vernon talking about suppressors, your understanding of that meaning was what at the end of that conversation? Meaning silencers. You guys continued to meet in the hotel room? Yes, we were. Can I have a look at the 12-1, please? And this is going to have a conversation concerning more suppressors and other types of firearms? Yes, it is. Okay, Mr. Scrocky, 12-1, please. The audio is played. Mr. Olson, this is the night after the militia convention itself was held? Yes, it is, Saturday night. There was a mention at the end where you're talking about, you and Mr. Fulton and Mr. Vernon are talking about suppressors, grinding off numbers, and Mr. Menino? Yes. Do you know who this individual is? Yes, I sure do. Who is he? He's a chiropractor in Fairbanks and also a gun dealer, a Class 3 gun dealer. Okay. And your conversation continues in the hotel room? Yes. If I could turn your attention to Exhibit 12-2 and the talk there is about automatic machine guns? Yes. Scrocky, let's play 12-2, audio played. A couple of questions on that, Mr. Olson, and let's move back to Mr. Menino real quick. There was a reference to a .gov. Do you recall hearing that? Yes, I do. Do you know what that means? No, just that he's tied in with the government somehow. All right. Is this conversation here in 12-2? There was a number of things mentioned, mainly a ma deuce. Yes. Have you heard that phrase before? I had, yes. In what context? What does it mean? A gun, talking about gun talk, gun. You don't know specifically what kind? No, I don't. Now, with the questions about the side plates, affirmative. What kind of conversation that was directed towards doing what with that 50 cal, making it fully automatic? And you're familiar with HKs? Yes, I am. You said that yesterday. What's that? You said that yesterday? Yes, I did. I used to own one. And can you explain to the jury your understanding about the HK and what we're talking about with the upper receiver and the lower receiver? There's two parts to the gun. The lower receiver is the trigger assembly with the safety selector switch, and then the upper part's the barrel and the top receiver. And you put them together in a couple of pins and slide a couple of pins and it locks them together. So that's the upper and the lower receiver of an HK91. And what does that do with those kind of parts in that HK91? What does what do? When you have those parts, in total, it works. It'll fire. Fire what way? Fully automatic. Okay. If I could turn you to 13-1 in this conversation, are there conversations about killing judges and district attorneys? Yes, there are. And we're still the night after the militia convention itself. Yes, this is. Yet still in the hotel room, okay? Sean, if you could start that audio played. Now we can have the lights, Mr. Olson. There's a repetitive reference to the 14th. Yes, you heard that? Yes. Do you have an understanding about what that meant? Yeah, that's Schaefer's court date. And can you elaborate for the jury about your understanding of what was going on to happen on the 14th with this court date? Schaefer wasn't going to show up for it. He had already told the court that, and he wasn't coming back in. And there seemed to be some frustration expressed in terms of the decision that was going to be made or not made on the 14th, yes? There was discussion about, from Mr. Vernon, killing women and children in the course of murdering a judge or some other official. Do you recall hearing that? Yes, I do. Did that conversation or that topic come up later on with Mr. Cox? Yes, it did. When did it come up? About a month later, 3 weeks later? Okay, we're going to hear that conversation. Yes, we will. With respect to your attendance at the militia convention, was there any other activities happening in the night after the meeting we had just heard about on the recording? No, we left the next morning back to Fairbanks. Lonnie and I did. You and Mr. Vernon, yes. And you drove back up to Fairbanks? Yes, we did. And did you have further discussions about silencers on the way up? Yeah, we did. We talked again, this whole kind of talk, guns, silencers, explosives, everything. Everything was covered, judges, everything. And when you got back to Fairbanks, what did you do with respect to Mr. Vernon? Met up with his wife and dropped him off and with his wife. And did you make any contact with Mr. Cox after that? Yeah, I did. How so? I called him up to let him know we were back in town, and he wanted to get a report of how the weekend went. Before meeting with Mr. Cox, were you given a recording device? Yes, I was. And what did you do with it before you met Mr. Cox? I turned it on. Okay. And when you were done, what did you do with it? I tagged it and shut it off. At some point after the conversation, you were made aware that there was a malfunction with the recorder? Yes, after the whole investigation was over. After March 10th? After March 10th, yes. So you met Mr. Cox. Where do you recall meeting him? at some of his friend's house up at having a Super Bowl party. It was a Super Bowl party Sunday. So I met him up there at their place. And you met and spoke with him? Yes, I did. And what was the point of you going to see Mr. Cox? Just to let him know that what we discussed at the militia meeting, let him know about the grenades and the fuses and that he wanted us to get. Did he respond back with any questions about those grenades and fuses you mentioned to him? Yes, yeah, he was asking if we were able to get them and, details about the fuses, who could get the fuses from, and I let him know that, and that Fulton didn't have any fuses, but we could get them through Aaron, and I let him know about the grenade bodies. Was there a mention of C4 in your conversation with him at this party? Yeah, there was. Could you tell the grand jury or the jury what was talked about to that? Okay, keep in mind, we got Olson, who's a Hells Angel, druggie, criminal FBI informant. He's just testified that the audio has broken down and malfunctioned on this particular trip, and Scrocky's asking him, I'm assuming, because the audio recording device has somehow failed, tell the jury what he said about explosives. That's the most craziest thing I've ever heard of. I let him know that my source in Anchorage, the guy I told him that I was buying guns on Friday before we left, could get us C4. And you told him that? Yes, I did. What was his response? He was interested. He asked some details about the guy. What if I met with him? And I said yes, and I went in and met with him. He said, were you able to see his family? Does he have a family? He said, because if he's an undercover agent, they won't let you see their family. You'd just be meeting with him. So he's real curious about if going over his house, if I was able to see his wife and kids. And did you give him an answer about if you had seen your source's family or wife or kids? I told him at the meeting I didn't, but I said I had known the guy for a long time and had seen his wife and kids in the past. So there was no worry about him being an agent. Okay, with respect to C4 that you were talking about, why did you bring that up to Mr. Cox there? Because he talked about it on Friday, the previous Friday. At some point while speaking with Mr. Cox, was your conversation interrupted? Yes, it was. And how was it interrupted? His wife Marty came out. We were out in the garage talking about because there was obviously a bunch of people in the house and we couldn't be talking about this kind of stuff in front of a bunch of people. So we were out in the garage and his wife came into the garage saying that his cell phone had been blowing up. Somebody had been, this Michael Donald or Michelle Donald, but one of the Assembly Post guys, they were trying to get a hold of him. Did Mr. Cox have a conversation with you about this person who is an Assembly Post member who had been arrested? Yes, I don't think the guy had been arrested because she handed him the phone. Schaefer talked to the guy for a few minutes. After he got off the phone, he told me the FBI was looking for him. They came into a restaurant where this guy frequented and was looking for him earlier that day, and this guy was freaked out about it. And what was Mr. Cox's reaction to this news and this conversation? We had a discussion. He was telling the guy on the phone as I was standing there that he'll figure out a way to get him to safety. And then after he got off the phone, we had a discussion on how he could get this guy out of Washington to Alaska. Schaefer said that Les had a plane they could. We talked about flying down, having to Les fly down and pick him up in a plane. We talked about using a boat. Schaefer said he knew people in Montana where if he could get him out over to Montana, he'd be safe over there. There was Les Zerby who had an airplane. Yes, it was. And the plan was to get Mr. Zerby to go down and fly this guy to safety. It wasn't a plan, but it was discussed. A discussion, yeah, discussion. All right, do you remember the name of the individual who was wanted by the FBI? Boy, I sure don't. I don't. Okay, at some point at this party, Mr. Olson, did you leave the party? Yeah, we did. My wife had dropped me off there, and so I rode with Schaefer back up to the house in his Jeep. What color Jeep does he have? It's a blue Jeep. And what was the purpose of you traveling with Mr. Cox back to his house? Because we needed to get up to his office so we could continue trying to figure out a way to get this guy to safety. So you came along for that? Yeah, I was. So you got to his house. Did you go inside? Yeah, we did. Tell the jury where you went. Back into his bedroom, off the side of the bedroom, a little nook, like an office area where he had a desk, and so we went back into that, into his office basically. Was there something dividing the office between the one room or another, making it into an office? Yeah, there was a bookshelf or a filing cabinet, tall filing cabinet or something. There was definitely a divider there. So was there a conversation once you got back into the office area about this individual being wanted by the FBI and Mr. Cox's attempts to help him? Yeah, we discussed. What was discussed? He called him back up. There was another phone conversation with the guy down in Washington, and just more discussion along the lines of planning to get him out of there. Do you recall Mr. Cox making some sort of prayer during this conversation on the phone? I believe they prayed afterwards. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. You don't recall the kind of prayer it was? No, I don't. Did the subject of C4 come up again? If so, how? He talked about some more about it. He said that he had a guy that normally, or that could make it for him, some guy base, that a guy in his mowing business that he worked for in the summer, and he had connections, or a base could make the C4. So after the conversation, I mean, how long did this last? How much time are we talking about? I'd say half an hour or so up in his office. Any further discussions about grenades at that point? Not that I recall, no. Okay, you left the home? Yeah, I did, yeah. Where did you go next? I went, my wife and I picked me up, and then we went, and I met up with Agent Sutherland, and went with him for a debrief. All right. If we could have the last, Madam Clerk, we're going to pull up Exhibit 799. If we can go to a text for 2-12, okay? Sean, if you can blow that up for the section there. Mr. Olson, there's a series of texts, if you can see those on the screen. There's a text string there beginning at 12:12 at 9:18. You see that? Where it says, on our way, where are we meeting? And then you get, there's a sent from to you, and it says Ken's. Do you see that? Yeah, I do. Can you give us a background about what that's about? This was a meeting Schaefer had called for the command staff to meet at Ken's bus for a command staff meeting. And did you attend that meeting? Yes, I did. Okay, Mr. Skronky, if we could have the last, please, Madam Clerk. Were you surprised to be invited to that meeting? No, I wasn't, because I was now a part of the command staff. Was this kind of a change for you? Yeah, it was. And did you go to that meeting at Mr. Thessing's bus? Yes, we did. Would that have been on the 12th? Yeah. So you have already testified Mr. Thessing lived in a bus. Yeah, it was a converted school bus. And then when you got there, who was present at the meeting? Myself, Coleman Barney, Ken Thessing, and Schaefer Cox. You guys went inside? Yeah, we did. Can you tell the jury about anything done with phones once you got inside the bus? We had to take our phones and shut them off, take the batteries out of them, and put them under the couch cushions. Or mine I left in the truck, so I didn't have to worry about it. Okay, I'm on page 22. We'll pick up in a little bit. Or mine I left in the truck, so I didn't have to worry about it. But anybody that had a phone on them had to make sure the phones were stashed. And who directed that to be done? Schaefer did. Did you see everybody do that? Yes, we all did. Okay, so it's you, Mr. Thesson, yes, and who else? And Coleman Barney and Schaefer Cox. Did you see Mr. Barney put his phone under the cushion with its battery removed? Yes, he did. And what was the point of this meeting, Mr. Olson? It was the court date coming up. Schaefer's court date was in a couple of days, so they wanted to plan on what we were going to do for Schaefer not showing up, not going to show up for his state court hearing or trial. Actually, it is what it was. How long was the meeting? It lasted, I'd say, 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, somewhere in there. Okay, you had occasion to examine the transcript from Exhibit 14? Yes, I have. There's a number of segments from this meeting. Yes, sir. These are all from the meeting. It's not the whole meeting, correct? No, it's not. If we could publish it, play the audio, end of audio. Mr. Olson, do you know who Ron Woods is? I do, yes. Who is he? He's some kind of administrator for the Alaska court system there in Fairbanks. And Martin Guerrero, do you know who he is? Same kind of position, I'm not real sure, but he's in the court system there. And Mr. Cox says they need to dangle together like a wind chime. Yes, you heard that? Yes, I did. And he took his fingers and dangled them like this. I'm sorry, he moved his fingers back and forth like what? Like a wind chime would dingle, you know. Who led this meeting? It was Schaefer. Anybody in that meeting, yourself, Mr. Thessing, Mr. Barney, express any opposition to these gentlemen hanging like a wind chime? No, they didn't. Did anybody say it was a bad idea? No, not at all. Scrocky, 4-2, play the audio, in the audio. With respect to Mr. Cox saying, in case I get killed, Mr. Thessing says 50 bodies are going to hit the dirt before that happens. Yes, he did. That's Ken Thessing saying that? Yes, it was. 14-3, if you could look at that briefly. Yes. Is this the conversation where 241 is first mentioned? Yes, it is. Have you ever heard of the 241 plan before this time? No, I never heard it. This is the first time. Did you ever have any discussion with anybody, Mr. Barney, Mr. Thessing, Mr. Zerby, Mr. Cox, Mr. Vernon, Miss Vernon? Anybody with respect to 241 before this date? No, I sure hadn't. This is, like I say, the first time I ever heard it. Who starts off the conversation about taking somebody in the event one of the militia members or Mr. Cox is arrested or killed or whatever? Schaefer Cox does. He said it's an Israeli defense strategy or something that the Israeli army does. When this conversation is occurring, Mr. Olson, can you describe for the jury the proximity where everybody's at? It's a bus, so it's small, obviously, and there's steps going up into the bus, and then right as soon as you turn, you'd like go walking back where all the kids' seats would normally be, and there's a couch and a chair right in there, and I was squatting on the steps. Schaefer was over on the chair, and Coleman was on the couch, all real close, and then Ken Thessing was at his desk, which was down the bus behind the couch. He had a desk against the wall of the bus with a desk chair, and he was sitting on his desk chair there. So you're pretty close together. Oh yeah, we're all within 2 or 3 feet of each other. There, except obviously Ken was a little further from me, but real close. All right, Scrocky, if we could play the following audio, stop it. We stopped that briefly, Mr. Olson. Can you explain to the jury why you offered a 541? I was this whole time. I through the whole investigation. I needed to not act like I was a bump on a log with these guys. I wanted to fit in and just act like I was part of them. So there were a few times where I would get into a little too much, and Agent Sutherland would have to rein me back, so to speak, and he would reiterate with me, "You need to just let it come to you." But this is kind of one of those times I was a part of wanting to fit in and not blow my cover. I offered up a 541. During this conversation, everybody's participating? Yes, they were. Everybody's contributing? Yes. Okay, Scrocky, keep going. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, you were having a discussion with Mr. Cox about a 3,500-man militia? Yes. Based on your exposure with the defendants in this case, did you ever see anything close to 3,500 members? No, not at all. How about 100? No. Apparently, when Mr. Cox told you in this conversation that they don't need that many, or that you can't get that number quickly? Yes. But they could get some guys. They could get, a few that he had, and he says because it's war. Yeah, we were going to proceed through the conversation, Mr. Olson. Who keeps bringing up the topic of 241? Schaefer does throughout the whole conversation. And with respect to the entire conversation in the bus, because we have snippets here, with respect to the entire conversation over the expanse of it, who keeps bringing up 241? Schaefer. Is that even after the conversations moved someplace else? Yeah. They would venture off to other things, and he'd always pull it around back to. So what do you guys think? I need to get your guys' thoughts on 241. Let's go back to the recording. Play the audio in the audio. Mr. Olson, just backing up a little bit in that conversation. There's a reference to Michael Dukes, yes. Can you tell the jury who Michael Dukes is? He's a radio talk show host in Fairbanks. And is he somebody of some fame in Fairbanks that spoke about Mr. Cox's case? Yes. He used to be pretty sympathetic to Schaefer's cause until the domestic violence issue came up, and then he did a 180 and came out against Schaefer. What's your understanding about what Mr. Cox did in state court with respect to the domestic violence charges that filed against him? As far as I know, he had taken a plea deal of some kind, and here he's calling it a lie. Yes, and you're talking to him about some sort of what with respect to his case? That the troopers had fabricated the case against him. Scrocky, let's go. Play the audio. And when he says Mr. Cox says, "I'd be well within my rights to drill McConey in the forehead." Yes. What did that mean as you understood it? To shoot him in the head. And what do you know who McConaughey is? Yes, I do. Who is he? He's a judge overseeing Schaefer's case. He's a judge in Fairbanks in the state court system. What was the reaction to the rest of the men, Mr. Barney and Mr. Thetsing, to a statement of drilling McConaughey in the head? Everyone was in agreement, nodding in an agreement on it. Do you see any facial expressions of the like? No, there was none of that. It was all, obviously, no one said anything against it. But it was nodding, and kind of everyone was in agreement. Okay, play the audio. Mr. Olson, in that exchange before Mr. Cox states, go for the ones that are either authorized or fail to prevent. You will give them a pause to authorize or fail to prevent. You stutter a lot. Yes, I do. Can you explain that to the jury? When I'm thinking as I'm talking rather than just talk or just sit and think, I'll stutter and have a hard time explaining myself. It's kind of a speech impediment I've always had. You had that since you were younger? Yeah, as long as I can remember. Okay. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. Can you go to 14-4, Mr. Olson, Mr. Thetsing, and Mr. Barney join the conversation? Yes, on 241. Yes, the same discussion. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. Mr. Olson, Mr. Barney, there is a talking about we need the force and something to spark the force. Yes, and that's in connection to this conversation about the RAR. Yes, it was. Can you explain to the jury who the RAR is? That's the Rusa Rare Restore America Republic. It was the sovereign citizen group that Thetsing was involved in, and they had plans to take over and institute their own government, and Thetsing figured that it was going to happen real soon. There's a statement in the conversation about military backing. Yes, do you recall hearing that? Yes, I do. What's that all about? Well, the RAR had their own military, or they were going to set their own military up, so they were saying that if and when the RAR had military in place, they would have the backing of the RAR's military to defend Schaefer. Was there some discussion in the meeting about, in a very broad sense, members of the military supporting the RAR? If you recall it. If you don't, you don't. If you do, I don't. No, I don't recall that, not in that meeting. Alright, other meetings? Other meetings with Ken, yeah. The meeting I had where Ken was trying to get me to join up with the Rusa RAR. Alright. Scrocky, if we can pick back up, play the log. Probably time for our break, folks. We'll take the morning recess, 10 minutes or so. All rise. The matter stands in brief recess. The clerk, all rise. His Honor, the dishonorable judge. The dishonorable United States District Court is again in session. The court, please be seated. Counsel, I have a request from the reporter from the local paper. They're having trouble hearing these audios, and I know that's true because my assistant's having the same trouble. I expect all the audience members are having that difficulty, but the request from the press was to have a copy of the transcript. I don't know if you have extras. We do. We have extras. We can make them. This is Mr. Marr here. Yes. Oh, there you are back in the corner. The only thing I would ask is if you share that the other members of the press who want to look at it. Mr. Marr, I have no problem with that, Your Honor. Yeah, I think that's fine if you have extras. Mr. Marr, the issue is some conversations are unintelligible, and it's hard to know who is speaking. I think we missed the whole context of the court shared the audio, so thanks. I guess it's not our reluctance. It's just not an admitted exhibit. The court, no. But if you're all right with us and ask us to do it, we'll do it. Sure, I think it's appropriate. All right, thank you. One thing that needs to be careful here, Your Honor, and I think the public and the press, these are clips. These are bites. These are not the whole meaning, and when that gets out into the media, that could generate the wrong publicity of just publicity, period. Never mind whether it's right or wrong, but a lot of publicity that could adverse to this case. But those are just clips or bites, and they don't tell the whole story. The court, that's certainly true. The evidence in this case shows that, and so like anything else, one hopes that the press is sensitive to the proceedings and what's going on. Okay, that's fine, and I guess we bring in the jury and proceed. The court, I guess, Mr. Marr, the same thing goes. It's not the transcript that's the evidence, it's the audio. So, the court, okay, Mr. Scrocky, you may continue. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Olson, we were headed towards Exhibit 14-05 before the break. Affirmative. This is a continuation of your meeting in Mr. Thetsing's bus. Yes, same place. Same participants, yes. Scrocky, play the audio. In 14-06, Mr. Olson, you continue the 241 discussion. Yes, it is. And again, it's brought up by Mr. Cox. Yes, yeah. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. Mr. Olson, what happens from this conversation to be next upcoming event they were talking about in these conversations? The trial, Schaefer's trial, his state court trial. And this is for what charge? For the weapons charge? Okay, what is Mr. Barney talking about? The stickers and bullseye on the back of the cop cars? Those little target stickers, you can get them in different sizes, and they're sticky on one side, and you stick them onto a piece of cardboard or a piece of plywood and shoot at them. They're the bullseye size. And put those in the back windows of all the cop cars? Yeah, go ahead and put them on the back of the windows of the cop cars, he said. All right. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, at page 120, Mr. Barney mentions in the context of Mr. Cox having a place to go, he mentions, I've got those rentals. Yes, and have you been to those rentals? At this point I hadn't, but I had after that. I had ended up going up there. What kind of rentals are we talking about that Mr. Barney's offering up here? There were some rental cabins. There was, I think, 6 or 9 of them, and he was in the process of building cabins to rent out. And did you have occasion to go up there? Yes, later on I did. And when you were there, who did you meet? I met Schaefer and Coleman up there. What was Mr. Cox's status when you met him at these rental cabins? This was later when he was on the run, when there was a warrant out for his arrest. He was a fugitive. Did you get the impression yourself, Mr. Olson, during these conversations that these men had an idea where the judges and other people lived or were living? Yes, I did. How so? Just in the conversation they talked about, Schaefer said he would go up to their houses. If you could flip the page to 14-07, is this a conversation about grenades? Just a second. Yes, it is. All right, Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. In this conversation, Mr. Olson, Mr. Cox says, we're using 2-second fuses right now. Is that what he said? Yes, he did. And what kind of fuses does he want? He wants an 8-second fuses. Did he make a reference as to powder? Yes, he referenced to black powder. Was it a reference to black powder or powder that was more powerful? Yeah, it's just powder, I guess. I'm just scanning over it again. Powder that burns fast enough to really send the shrapnel flying. Was Mr. Thessing present during this conversation? Yes, he was. And Mr. Barney and Mr. Cox? Yes. So you mentioned this meeting lasted for, correct me if I'm wrong, more than an hour? Yes, it was. At the end of the meeting, did you have further discussions about the next steps you might have to take, and in terms of communication, things like that? Yes, we did. What did you talk about? We talked about, let me refresh here. No, it won't be on the, it won't be, oh, it isn't in there? In the transcript? No. Oh. I want to know, since we don't have a clip, what you guys talked about, if you recall. Okay, we talked about getting ready for Schaefer to get what he was going to do, get transferred out of there. We talked about getting some of these judges and cops, their addresses. Were you given anything from Mr. Cox concerning further communication with him or getting messages from him? Yes, he had us sign up for his Twitter account so he could tweet us messages. And did the folks in the room or in the bus know what a Twitter account was? Yes, we all did. And what did you get a code of some sort to use, or how? What were you given by Mr. Cox in terms of access to a Twitter account? Just his address. It was a 00 Schaefer Cox. 00 Schaefer Cox? Yes. And discussion as to how that 00 Schaefer Cox Twitter thing would be used in connection with 2-for-1. That would be used if we needed to institute 2-for-1. That's what we were to get messages on, was through Twitter, through that account. Twitter account, yeah. When Mr. Cox said we were using 2-second fuses, anybody seem like surprised by that statement? No, After the meeting, did you have occasion to talk to Mr. Cox again? Yes, I did. How did you get a hold of him? Called him up. Did you record the phone call? Yes, I did. Yeah, it was. And later that, or no, it was a couple of days later, the night before the trial. And did you relate this 2-for-1 information to Agent Sutherland that you heard? Yes, I did. And you called Mr. Cox back? Yes, I did. Maybe a couple days later, yeah. For what purpose? Because when I let Agent Sutherland know about 2-for-1 plan and was going after people 2-for-1, he wanted me to get a copy of the list that they had of, who's on target of these guys. So we initiated contact with them to try to get a copy, find out what addresses, who they had, who was the target. All right. It is the first conversation that you're talking about referenced here on Exhibit 15? Yes, it is. Okay. We got to switch to the CD, play the audio. So, Mr. Olson, did you swing by Mr. Cox's house for some helpful information? Yes, I did. And is it going to be a reflection on Exhibit 116? Yes. Could you look at the transcript for us quickly? Yes, it is. Let's give 16-1 a shot, okay? Okay, play the audio. Can you give some context to the jury, please, Mr. Olson, about this conversation in Mr. Cox's home Where are you when this is happening? We're back in his office, the side of this bedroom, standing at his desk there, and he gives you the name of Burke Barack, yes. Do you know who Burke Barack is? At that point I didn't know. Do you remember what he's associated with? With the troopers, yeah. How about Ron Wall? Yeah, I knew who Ron Wall was. You did know who he was at the time? Yeah, I did. Where did he work? He was a trooper as well. At page 3 of the transcript and page 4, he was giving you some instructions, yeah. You were personally familiar with the instructions and the locations he was talking about? Yes, I was. I knew the roads he was talking about. So you were tracking along with him? Yeah. And the right before we cut off, he mentioned a name? Yeah, he did. And whose name is that, Mike Anderson? Have you heard of Mike Anderson before this meeting? No, I hadn't. When you were having this conversation with Mr. Cox, you were in the den area? Yeah. Is there... office area. Is there something you two men were looking at? There was a map. A map, yes. And who had Mr. Cox got? Where did the map come from? It was sitting on his desk. Or the table right there. The desk table, whatever it was. And he used the map to show you what? He was using it to show me where he was talking about. Was he tracing it with his finger? Tracing it, yeah, tracing out roads. Did he actually in the conversation like point out where those two homes were? Not real hard, but just in the general area, go up to Roland Road, turn right at the T, just trace along. Okay, so you know the general location of what he was talking about? Yes, I did. Alright, let's get to the part about Mr. Anderson. Play the audio. He says you're turning it into a pretty good sergeant, yes. Does he ultimately know this meeting at his home, give you the address, or show you where Ron Wall lives? Yes, he did, yeah. Using the map, yeah. There's a conversation in here about the transcript says EYAK, E-Y-A-K, yeah. And there's a RAR or something like that. Yes, that's IACC, the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition. It's a little group in Fairbanks, all right. And then the reason I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. And then RAR was Restore America Republic, the other sovereign group. And you're asking for this list because you had been tasked to do so by Agent Sutherland? Yes, that's correct. At some point you recall having a text. Let me rephrase that. I think I'm ahead of myself. Do you have further conversations with Mr. Cox about Mike Anderson? I don't recall for sure. He did give me a slip of paper of trooper's number on it that same night, or with a trooper's address, home address, and physical address. Okay, we'll get to that. I'm going to have to turn 16-02. Is that a conversation between yourself and Mr. Cox concerning Mr. Anderson? Yes, it is. Scrocky, let's play the audio in the audio. So what information did Mr. Cox send you? Michael Anderson's contact information, his cell number, and his home phone number, I believe, was on there. And at some point during this investigation, did you attempt to contact Mr. Anderson? Yes, I did. Were you successful in getting the list from him? Not the list, no. So your meeting with Mr. Cox, I assume, continued? Yes. Not much longer, I don't think, but yeah. Flip to 1603, and this is concerning a trooper you mentioned just a few minutes ago. Yeah. This is where he gives me the home address of a trooper that's been giving him trouble. Scrocky, go ahead. Audio. Mr. Olson, was there a child there when Mr. Cox was talking to you? Yes. Who was that? Schaefer's son. How old is he? Probably 3 or 4 years old. Okay, and this is why you're getting the information on the trooper, yeah. I want you to think about what you heard, Mr. Olson, and where Mr. Cox is talking about Mike Anderson, and he says he can get anything. Did you hear the words Ron Wall, Burke Barack, and judges in that exchange? Yes, I did. You can faintly hear them. So that was part of the conversation, yes, okay. Did Mr. Cox give you something during that meeting? Yes, he did. What did he give you? A little yellow sticky with Malik Jones' name and home address on it and legal description to his property? If we could have the last denali for a few minutes. Is this what Mr. Cox gave you, Mr. Olson? Yes, it is. Do you know Mr. Jones yourself? I don't know him personally, but his son or nephew or someone related to him played a little league with my son on the little league team. So when Mr. Cox mentioned the name of Malik Jones, you knew who he was talking about? Yes, I did. That's why you asked if he was African American? Yeah. Did Mr. Cox seem to know about that or not? Yeah, he did. And when you got this note, did you ever deliver it to Miss Mike Anderson? No, I didn't. What did you do with it? I turned it over to Agent Sutherland. You don't know if this is Mr. Jones' home, do you? I don't know. I never went to his house. I don't know. I don't know him that well. Just in our kids playing together on the team. Do you have an idea about whose writing this is? It looks like Schaefer's. In your exposure of Mr. Cox here in the meeting, what were you being tasked to do, Mr. Olson, with reference to this note on Mr. Troopers Jones? To get a hold of Mike Anderson to get the list? Were you instructed to give it to Mike Anderson, given this? I don't recall that specifically. Okay, what do you recall hearing from the audio we just played? I guess I missed that part. Let me ask you this then. Let's try to walk our way through. He gave you the note in the house, right? Yes, he did. And you're talking about who? About Mike Anderson. Okay, Mr. Cox mentioned that with respect to Mr. Jones, to Trooper Jones. He mentioned that this guy had been giving him trouble. Okay, so what's your recollection about what you were asked to do with respect to this note? Asked to do as far as with that note, or yes? Okay, I'm going to stop on page 51. I honestly don't recall. I missed that. I forget that. Okay, either way, you gave the note to Agent Sutherland. Yes, I did. Do you want to go through the transcript and see if that refreshes your recollection? That's what I'm looking at here, yeah. Mr. Olson, let me try it a different way. With respect to Mr. Trooper Wall or Trooper Barrett, yes. He was giving you addresses. Yes, he was, yeah. To do for what reason? To add to the list and to be available for us if he initiated 2 for 1? All right, so do you have a recollection, and if you don't, that's fine, about why you are given that note with Trooper Jones' name on it? To add to the list, that's what it was for. Malik Jones' name and address. Okay. Scrocky, can we have Exhibit 799 and page 9? If you can take us down to page 9, if you can enlarge that a little more. Do you see those texts that we have posted up on 799, Mr. Olson? Yes, I do, at page 9. Yes, there is a listing there for February 13th. Yes, I see. Right there under the blue line I've drawn. Yeah. Do you see that? Yes, I sure do. Did you send that to Mr. Cox? Yes, I did. And that's in reference to that Twitter account you were talking about earlier? Yes, it was. So read what you have sent and what you received back. I said, hey, Schaefer, what was your Twitter username? I'm setting up my account. And then he sent back, 00 Schaefer Cox. Okay. If I could turn your attention to this text message, Mr. Olson, yes. That's on the 12th of February. Yes, it is. And what are you there at the line? What are you texting Mr. Cox? I said, hey, Schaefer, do you happen to see Mike? I've tried to call him but haven't been able to make contact. And the response back, he says, no. So could you explain to the jury what kind of contact you had with Mr. Anderson in an attempt to get this list? I called him up and asked him and told him that Schaefer had called me, told me to call. I needed to get a list of all the law enforcement and judges in the area. And was that something you had recorded per the investigation? No, I did not. And why was that? Because Rick or Agent Sutherland told me not to. I couldn't record it. Okay. Following this discussion, if we could have the lights down, Denali, for a few minutes. Following this discussion, Mr. Cox, do you recall having a conversation with Coleman Barney? Yes, I do. Can you tell the jury what the conversation was about? It was the night before the trial, or Schaefer's trial, was going to be the next morning, and we were planning on going to court, showing up for court for his trial. So it was a conversation about where we were going to meet and how we were going to get there and whatnot to the court. What was that? Where did you guys first collect and meet? Up at Schaefer's house, and who was there? Just Coleman and I. And what were the plans that you guys discussed? We were going to just go into the courtroom and just observe and take notes and see what the bail was, if the judge issued the bail, and then report back to Schaefer. And the date of this court hearing, if you recall, I believe it was the 14th, February 14th or 16th. I'm not sure. Middle of February. All right, and to your understanding, at some point on the 14th, did you have an understanding of what Mr. Cox was going to do in reference to showing up for court? Yeah, he wasn't going to show up. How did it come to be that you and Coleman Barney were going to show up? Because Schaefer had tasked us with going to court and, like I said, see what happened. And did you do that? Yes, we did. Did you know at that time, where Mr. Cox was? No, I fully expected him to be up at his house. The next morning when I got up there and he wasn't there, there was just Coleman there, and neither one of us knew where he went, but where he was. Okay, but you said the next morning. Do you mean the next day? Yeah, the next day, yeah. Okay, let's focus on this day for just a moment. So did you go to court with Barney? Yes, I did. What did you guys do when you got there? We just walked in and sat down and observed what was going on. Did you have anything with you in terms of paperwork? Oh, yeah. There was some more paperwork. that we had to file, serve, or whatever. What do you mean by file, serve, or whatever? Well, file the clerk's office, or the sovereigns call it serving it on the court. And who did the mechanics of filing or serving what you did? What did you do with that paperwork? You took it to the clerk's office and turned it into the clerk there at the clerk's office. Okay, Scrocky. Could we pull up 469, please? Mr. Olson, with respect to your monitor, can you see Exhibit 469? Do you see that? Yes, I do. And is this the one of the documents that you were talking about? Yes, it is. And the same with 469-2? Yes, the same document. The only thing, this one has my name on it. And did you actually file that with the court? Yes, we did. There's another one with Mr. Thessing's name on it. Yes. We offer 469. No objection, 469 admitted. Scrocky, could we test your arm, Denali? Thank you. Scrocky, Mr. Olson, this is the paperwork you filed with the state court on the 14th of February, yes. And we're going to see 3 of them. One is signed by yourself, yes. One signed by who else? Coleman Barney. And the third, Ken Thessing. Are they relatively identical? All. In terms of language and things that are being alleged? Yes, as far as I know, they're all the same except the name and address at the bottom. Alright, so up at the top, there's an information referral to the IRS. It's being sent under who to those? No, I'm sorry. Who's the taxpayer name? There on the upper left. Michael P. McConaughey, alright. Scrocky. And Sean, if you can enlarge that, can you read what it says under comments? Describe the facts of the alleged violations. Can you read the section there? It says, Michael P. McConaughey was served with a Form 56F on which he was fired from being trustee of Francis August Schaefer Cox estate. Date of firing was February 11, 2011. McConaughey refused to stand down and issued legal process bonds against Francis August Schaefer Cox estate on February 14, 2011. And he sealed the bonds to keep the information from being public. Just a couple of things about that, Mr. Olson. What does it mean to refuse to stand down? I don't know, honestly. Do you know what the rest of this means? If you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. But I don't know. It's legal talk. Perhaps all right. Scrocky, if we can go back out of that, Sean. So this one was filed by Mr. Barney, yet was. Did you fill in any of the information on those forms? No, I didn't. You didn't participate in it? No, Next page, please. It was already, they had them all filled out with my name on them and stuff. I didn't do it, you know. They were like a form letter that they already had printed up. So it was all done by the time you got it? Is that my phone? Who is it? What? Who was that? Why did that not ring?
I think it was, you know what I think it was? I think it was this.
Your phone?
Let me see, I don't know. I had to pee so bad.
Okay, that was a huge interruption. Do you want me to keep reading or go in the other room?
Go ahead.
Alright. Okay, continuing on. Sorry about the interruption. The phone's ringing. I can't stop it. And I don't know who what it was anyway. So it was all done by the time you got it? Yeah. And again, this is Mr. McConaughey. Yeah, it was. Do you know who he is? He's a judge, Judge McConaughey, the state judge in Fairbanks. And this one under your name? Yes, it is. The same language, refused to stand down? Yeah, it is. What's that?
Go ahead.
Scrocky, next page. And again, this one from Mr. Thesson, yeah. And the last page, did you attempt to read any of the information on the cover sheet, which was marked as 46904? Did I at the time, or yes, no I didn't. Have you tried since? Just what am I trying to read now there? Is it making any sense to you, and what is it? No, it doesn't. Scrocky, thanks. If we could have the lights, Denali. So you go to court, you got this paperwork, and you file it, and what happened with respect to Mr. Cox's court hearing? He didn't show up, and the judge issued an arrest warrant. And with respect to you and Mr. Barney, what do the two of you do? We went down and filed his paperwork and then headed out. We left. Okay, did you try and have any idea where Mr. Cox was by that time? No. Schaefer Cox had told Coleman that he would be in contact through Facebook, through his wife's Facebook account, so we were just going to sit back and wait to hear from him where he was at. Through his wife's Facebook account? Through Coleman's wife, yeah. And he explained to you that was going to maintain contact? Yeah, that's how Schaefer was going to maintain contact. Okay, with Coleman. Okay, we're going to have to back up to 7 to 469 briefly. I have been advised I missed a piece, so okay. We're going to back up to the last page. Can we have the lights for a minute, Denali? Thank you. If we can blow up the first paragraph. These two names in the first paragraph here that I'm going to circle, Mr. Olson. Okay. Do you recognize those two names? Yeah, Ronald J. Woods and Martin Guerrero. Are those two guys that are going to dangle like... Are those the two guys that were going to dangle like the wind chimes of liberty that Mr. Cox talked about? Yes, they are. Scrocky, thank you. Can we have the lights, Denali? After the court hearing, Mr. Olson, did you have occasion to place a phone call, if you recall? Yes, I talked to Lonnie Vernon at some point after the hearing. During this period of time while Mr. Cox is, I guess, not appearing. Did you make any efforts to contact Mike Anderson? Yes, I did, yeah. And did you speak with him voice to voice? Yes, I did. Would you tell the jury what you spoke about with him? That's where I tried to make, I tried to ask him about the list, if he'd give me the names and addresses. And what did he say in response to that? He said no, he wouldn't do it, and he'd have to hear it from Schaefer. He wanted Schaefer's word on it because he didn't know me. He said I'm just a strange guy calling up, and he didn't know, so he wasn't going to give me the copy. Did he seem pretty emphatic about it? Yeah, he was pretty serious that he wasn't. I could tell he wasn't going to cut loose. Did you really that conversation you had with Mike Anderson? Did you relay that conversation you had with Mike Anderson to anybody else in Mr. Cox's group? Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but I did tell Lonnie and Karen Vernon about it. That you couldn't get the list from him? Yeah. Do you recall ever conveying that to Mr. Barney? Yeah, I believe I told him too, as well. Do you recall when that was? No, I don't know. At some point during the investigation, yes, at some point along the way I did. While Mr. Cox was on the date around the date he had not appeared for court, did you do any kind of coordination with Mr. Barney, any kind of communication or coordination with Mr. Barney? All I remember is going into the courthouse, going up to the trial or where the trial was scheduled to start, all right. And with respect to Mr. and Miss Vernon of Lonnie Vernon in particular, did you have a phone call with him after Mr. Cox failed to appear? Yes, I did later this afternoon at some point. What was the phone call about? He wanted me to come out to his place. He had been trying to get me to come out there all along, but he called up again and he wanted me to come out to his house to do what or to see what? To see a weapons cache, because that's where one of the weapon caches were. And ultimately, did you go out there? Yes, I did. Okay, we'll get to that. From this point forward, specifically, Mr. Cox is not appearing in court, so he's a fugitive. There's a warrant out for his arrest. Did the idea of phones or the notion of using phones to communicate come into play? Yes, they did. Yeah, prepaid cell phones. And did you have any conversations with anybody with respect to Mr. Thessing, Mr. Cox, Mr. Barney about prepaid phones? I don't remember Thessing, but Coleman and Schaefer and I have discussions about that. Did you recall where the idea came from to get a prepaid phone? I don't remember which one. It was one of them, but I don't remember which one for sure. Ultimately, did you get one? Yeah, we did. Yeah. And actually more than one in the long term. And in the long term, it turned out to be quite a few of them, yeah. Did you end up going to the Vernon residence on the 14th? Yeah, I did. And before you went out there, you were provided with anything from the FBI in terms of recording equipment? Yeah, they gave me a camera set up to record video audio, yes. So how far out is the Vernon's property from Fairbanks? It's out by Salcha. It's probably 45 miles out of Fairbanks. You drove out there? Yeah, I did. And when you got there, they were surprised by something? Yeah, I was surprised. Tell the jury what you were surprised about. I walked into the garage, and there's Schaefer holding his little boy in the garage. There was the garage and the attached house, so I walked in there, and he was over to the right. There was a blue pickup, and a white flatbed pickup, and I walked into the garage. I saw Schaefer duck down behind the white flatbed truck over on the right, and of course Lonnie was right there letting me in. So you saw him duck down, yeah? Do you know why he did that? I don't know. Maybe he didn't know it was me for sure. Or, maybe he wanted to make sure it was me. How long did it take for him to come out and reveal himself? It didn't take long, about 20 seconds. I think he just ducked down, and then when he knew it was me, just walked around the front of the vehicle and came over to where we were at. Did you spend a lot of time at the Vernon house that day? It was probably 3 to 4 hours, I would imagine, something like that. All right, and you had a recording device? Yeah, I did. And video and audio? Yeah. Did you recall the signage outside the Vernon residence as you started up their driveway? They had no trespassing signs, and then something about if you trespass, you'll be shot. And then a sovereign citizen kind of sign that was hanging there about government agents or anybody is not allowed on the property. Okay, if you could have turned into Exhibit 17 in the transcripts, were you having a conversation with Mr. Cox about Mr. Anderson? Yep. This was at the Vernon's. Crocky, Denali, if we could have the lights, please. Play the audio. So there was a conversation occurring in the Vernon's house somewhere. I don't remember. You know exactly where at in their house, but in their homes. And Mr. Cox tells you, does it appear from your understanding that Mr. Cox had spoken to Mr. Anderson? Yes, he had. And the Anderson's not going to give you the list, but he would give it to Mr. Cox? Yeah, he wanted to give it to him personally. Scrocky, if we could all turn to 18-02, this conversation about Mr. Cox trying to avoid getting apprehended. Yes, it is, and it's between you, Mr. Vernon, and Mr. Cox, yeah, and maybe Karen too, I don't recall for sure, but she was in and out. Was she present during the conversations for the most part? For the most part, she was, yeah. All right, Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. In the next segment, Mr. Olson talked about Mr. Cox's cell phone. Yes, it does. Does he, in fact, give you his cell phone during this? Yes. During this time you were there? Yes, he does. Yeah, to take back to his house. What does he ask you to do with it? Asked me to take it back to his house. Did you do that? I turned it over to Agent Sutherland. And how long did Agent Sutherland have it? He had it overnight. And did you get it back from him at some point? Yes, the next morning I did. Then what did you do with it? Then I brought it up to Schaefer's house. Does Mr. Cox explain in this exchange why he wants to give you his cell phone? Yeah, he does, I believe. I don't remember the specifics, but all right. Let's go to 18-3, play the audio. Mr. Cox tells you in the exchange that you were talking about Mike Anderson's, and he's got everybody on there, yeah. In reference to the list, yes, that's what we were talking about. Did you relay that information to Agent Sutherland? Yes, I did. Exhibit 19, Mr. Olson, we're still in the Vernon residence. Yes, we are. Yeah, and in exchange, we're talking about future plans and what to do given that Mr. Cox is a fugitive. Yeah. Scrocky, play the audio. Let's go to 20, Mr. Olson. There's a further discussion about judges and lawyers. Yes, it is. Scrocky, go ahead for 20. Play the audio. Question. That was Mr. Vernon talking about we have a judge and an attorney and a cop. Yeah, it was. Mr. Scrocky, can I have just a moment, Judge? Let me have you flip to 21, Mr. Olson. Okay, there's a further discussion between yourself, Mr. Cox, and Mr. Vernon about people with jackboots and plans to do things in the future to law enforcement and other types of people that they don't agree with, correct? Plaintiff's Exhibit 21 admitted. Answer, yes. In terms of them coming after them. Answer, yeah. I was again trying to get information because I had been tasked by Agent Sutherland to find out what institutes the 241 and when we were going to do this. And when are we going to do this? So I was always leading back to that. Okay, Mr. Scrocky, if we could play 2-1. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, that recording stopped at that moment. Did you know why it did? I don't know. Okay, during the course of your visit in the Vernon home, did they show you around the house? Yeah, they did. And it was the first time I was there, so they were showing me their house. They walked you around, yeah. What did you observe in the home with respect to firearms? There were a lot of firearms. They were everywhere. Scrocky, can we pull up Exhibit 234? Do you see Exhibit 234? Mr. Olson, yeah, I do. What room is that in the Vernon home? That's straight ahead. There's a living room, and then off to the left is like a sunroom, solarium type room. All right. Do you see a firearm in that photo? Yes, I do. Do you know what kind it is? If you've had occasion to be familiar with that type? It looks like an SKS, but I'm not positive on that. All right. 236, and you were shown the Vernon's bedroom as well? Yeah, I was. Do you see the firearms in that photo? Yeah, there looks to be a shotgun on the desk there. All right, 238. And you recall seeing the items in the bedroom as well? Yeah, I do. A couple of rifles, one up at the bookshelf above the headboard, and then over on the window on the wall. Mr. Olson, we're going to pull up for Exhibits 428, 429, 430. Yeah, and he's got some things on his hand. Do you see that? Yeah, I do. And we're going to talk about some of those things that are in his hand in a moment. Do you recognize those items? Yeah, I do. And that was taken in the Vernon residence? Yeah, before I was getting ready to leave, all right. And 429, please, there's another screen capture from the audio review. Yeah, and in the background there's something there where Mr. Cox was standing and was moved out of the way. Is that captured in the photo as well? Yeah, you can see a rifle laying there in his arm on the right, just on the edge. And 430, please. Yeah, person in that photo, do you recognize who that is? That's Karen Vernon. That's all for the video clip in your home in the Vernon's home on the 14th. Yeah, it is. We offer 428, 429, 430, no objection admitted. Scrocky, let's go to 429 first. Olson, Mr. Olson, Exhibit 429, do you know what room that is in the Vernon home that was captured from? This is the laundry room area right as you walk in out of the garage. All right, and in that right far photo, you can see an outline there. Yeah, that's Schaefer's arm. And behind him in the countertop or whatever happens to be there, yeah, that's, what do you see? That's a rifle laying there, an assault rifle, okay. The person here on the bottom right-hand corner, yeah, who's that, Mr. Olson? That's Karen Vernon. And behind her right shoulder on the shelf, that's another rifle laying there. Another firearm of some type? Yeah. Scrocky, could we go to 428? Could you describe for the jury, this is a screen capture, describe for them what's happening between you and Mr. Cox at this moment. He wanted me to go to his house. I was bringing his cell phone up to his house, and then he was giving me cash and a check. he had wrote out a check to make a deposit into his bank account, and then he re-enters at his place that he rented out his basement, and one of them was a friend of his that was caretaking the upstairs, the main living part, and so I have to give that to him. His name was Joseph. The cash and some notes and stuff that he had given to me. Did he give you another list of items to take from his home? Yes, he did. Yeah, to bring back out. All right, we're going to pull up a couple of exhibits. I would just want you to look at them and just know if you recognize them without going into their contents until we get them admitted, okay? Okay, all right. So let's go to 438. Do you see those there in front of you, Mr. Olson? Yeah, I do. So we're looking at 438 at this stage. Scrocky, can we have the next page? All right, and then 439, the next page. Do you recognize those items? Yes, I do. Were those the notes that Mr. Cox gave you in the Vernon home? Yeah, they are. We offer 438, 439, no objection admitted. Go back to 438. This is the list that Mr. Cox gave to you, Mr. Olson. Yes, it is. And did you see him write it? Yes, he was writing it out as we were sitting there. There was a square boxes right there. Do you see those? Yeah, I do. And then he's asking you to get a few things for him, right? Yeah. Are these the things he was supposed to get out of his home? Out of his house, yeah. Okay, could you read that, what that list is? It says Torah and Bible, dash of Jeep, brass square key, driver door of Jeep, truck phone charger and study, sleeping bags, MSR stove, bottle pump and stove, 2 boxes of 45 closet on FBR, or I don't know what that is. Could that be floor? Floor, okay, yeah, this is floor, F-L-O-R. Okay, yeah, on the floor. All right, Scrocky, Agent Sutherland has removed 438. One of our pages didn't get scanned, so let me hand this counsel to a moment, which you guys have already seen, but let me hand it to you anyway. No objection, thank you. Thank you, any objection? Oh, no, I'm sorry, no objection, no objection. This would be, Your Honor, the second page of 438. All right, it's in evidence, thank you. Mr. Olson, we don't have that in our system. Could you read before you do? We're getting close to the noon hour. Before you do that, what's the context of those notes that you were handed by Mr. Cox? These are the one that on the right here is a list of stuff I was supposed to bring back to him. Is this one of the screen right now? The one that's on the screen? Yeah, that one. Okay, the other side. And the other side is for Joe, his renter. Okay, could you read that to the jury, please? Okay, it says, hey, Joe, I live upstairs. Tell cops he's renting. Video if they come in. Keep rats fed and H2O. Keep chickens fed and H2O. Check mail. Pay all credit card bills on desk. Pay phone, electric, other bills. Put mortgage bill on desk. And then in parenthesis it says, do not pay credit card bills or mortgage. Get Eric to fix truck. Use cash if you need, but Jew him. Ask him about how much dollars to put in his account, then do it. Bills to plow customers for last. One other guy did. Any court letters to go to Coleman or JR. Use cash, but keep a running tab. And then there's 2,000 circled. The number's 2,000 with a $ circled. So with respect to those two notes, or at least a note right there for right now, and did Mr. Cox give you any money? Yes, the 2,000 it refers to in there, and then the cash you've seen him handling in that last picture. So he gave you 2,000, yes. What did you do with that money? Turned it over to Agent Sutherland. Did you get it back after that? Yeah, I remembered. If it was right that day or the next morning kind of deal. But at some point I brought it up to Joe. All right, let's try to get a few more pages here. Page 81. Okay, so you gave it to Joe? Yeah. And did you give Joe those notes? Yes, I did. Scrocky, if we could have 439, please. Thank you. So with respect to 439, do you know who wrote this note? Yes, this is Schaefer. And you're sure about that? Yes, I am. And do you see the blocks on the left? Yeah. And what's he asking for there? Can you read it? He's asking, this is another list of stuff to pick up for him at his house to bring back out to Vernon's. Okay, go ahead and read it. It says, SAS gas mask in the back of the room or possibly entryway. Marty's bulletproof vest and bedroom closet on top shelf. Launcher mags on bunk bed and back room. Fuel pump and bottle. Tailgate of Jeep. 45 ammo in driver's side door. Toolbox on top of gun safe. Purple ink stamps. Back room and right side of metal thing. They are in one container. Black ink stamp. Black ink stamp living room, armoire middle drawer. You'll need to rummage. And who was the note given to? This note was for me. This was a note for me. All right. And you did look for the launcher and the mags? Yes, I did. Were you able to find them? I couldn't, no. You couldn't find them in the bunk bed in the back room? No, How about Marty's bulletproof vest? No, I didn't find that either. A lot of the stuff I couldn't find. What could you find? I know the ammo I found, the ink stamp, and there might have been one or two more items, but I can't remember. Scrocky, Your Honor, we're about to launch into a lengthy video, so it's your call, sir. The court, okay, yeah, it's time for a break. We reconvene at 1:30, folks. You may be excused. Follow my instructions about recesses. This matter is in recess until are we staying on, Judge? Are you staying on? I'm sitting here. Can I recess, court? The court, you mentioned that the transcript is not in evidence. It seems to me that we should mark a copy of the transcript and admit it to not go to the jury but for the court record. I think that's fine. The court, okay, do you want to mark mine? Sure. We'll get you a number. Will it be the court exhibit number 1? There you go. How does that work? That works fine. No, not to go to the jury. Okay, Denali. Okay, thanks. Okay, all right. 1:30. All rise. The matter is in recess until 1:30. All rise. His Honor the Court. This United States Court District is again in session. Please be seated, all ready to go. Bring the jury in, please. You know, by the end of the week, I think we owe this jury a good estimate as to how much time we can expect, so be thinking about that. We'll tell them hopefully before they leave on Thursday what our best estimate is. I think we can do that. Juror number 7, I was going to ask you how your eyes are doing. It's still a struggle. They're doing all right, though. Yes, okay, good. You may continue, Mr. Scrocky. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Olson, if we could have you turn your attention to the transcript we marked as 2202. Yes, there's a discussion between you and Mr. Cox about referencing something automatic. Yeah, there is. All right, Mr. Scrocky, all set. If we could play the audio played. Mr. Olson, this is an audio conversation. Yes, it was. And you no longer had video. No, What was the conversation you had with Mr. Cox at Vernon's house? All right, but this time just an audio recorder. Yeah, this was the next time I was out there. Okay, so the day after the 14th, yes, it would have been. We have another recording, 2204. This is between yourself, Mr. Olson. I'm sorry, Mr. Vernon and Mr. Cox. Yes, it is. Concerning contact by law enforcement, amongst other things. Yes, Scrocky, go ahead. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, is there when you got the list that you looked at earlier before the break? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Take a look at 22-5. There's some discussion there referenced in the transcript about HK91. Do you see that there? Yeah, I do. Okay, and then there's some discussion in this conversation about ARs and other firearms, correct? Yeah, there is. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. At the end of that conversation, Mr. Olson, you were talking about battling in the woods. What did Mr. Cox say? He said probably going to be houses. Question, and what were you examining with him? You can hear some clicks in the audio. What were you examining with Mr. Cox? Scopes for rifles, different types of rifle scopes. Do you have an idea about what kind of scopes they were? Infrared laser style scope, red dot, laser type ones. Not like hunting scopes, like the long, narrow, thin ones. Not the big, long, thin, narrow ones. No more of an assault rifle scope. Go to 22.8 for us, please. This is the end of a conversation where you're talking about ammunition. Yeah, we are, yeah. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. I'll have you turn to 23. Would you take a look at that briefly? Okay, yes. Pardon me, Mr. Olson. Have you had a chance to look at that briefly? Yes, I did. That concerns a conversation between yourself and Lonnie Vernon. Lonnie and Karen Vernon was there. And Karen Vernon, yeah. Could you tell the jury, please, where that conversation took place? It was at a restaurant in Fairbanks called the Food Factory. And what was the point of your meeting with them? They wanted to discuss. They were there upset about Schaefer being out of their house, and they wanted to vent about that and just talking general stuff here. Did you have a conversation about Mike Anderson with the Vernons during this conversation? Yeah, I asked them if they could go, if they knew Michael Anderson well enough to get a hold of him and go over, meet up with him and get a copy of the list. Scrocky, let's go to 23, play the audio. 2302 is a further clip regarding your discussion with the Vernons at the Food Factory restaurant. Yeah, it is. Go ahead, play the audio. If we could all turn to 2304, the same location, Mr. Olson. Yes, it is. The same conversation. Okay, go ahead, please. Play the audio. Who's the person you were talking about? Les Zerby. And 2305, again, a further selection from that discussion. Yes, it is. Scrocky, go ahead, play the audio. Yeah, and my computer decides to lock up on... I can't even use this computer anymore. It's just locking up every 5 seconds. Let me go to another computer real quick. Incredible. I can't pause the audio because Just bear with me here. I can't pause the audio because sometimes when I pause it doesn't work right. I'm going to what am I at? I'm at the bottom of page 90. Give me just a second. It's absolutely insane all the computers locking up around here. You know. Okay, hold on. Open the file. Alright, here we go. I found another computer. So let's move the recording device over here. Okay, we're at the bottom of page 90. End of audio. Mr. Scrocky, if we could all turn to 2308, there's some discussion here, Mr. Olson, about some bombs and trees of some type, yeah. And was this, again, at the restaurant with the Vernons? Yes, it was. Yeah, talking about training exercise. They had one on before I was involved. And you weren't at the training? I wasn't, no. Play the audio. And does this conclude, for the most part, your conversation in the restaurant with the Vernons? Yeah, it does. Go ahead, play the audio. Mr. Olson, Mr. Vernon said he was heading over to Mike's, yes. Can you give the jury some background about what he's doing that? Why he's doing that? What led him to go heading over to Mike's? Like we were talking about in the restaurant there, he was going to go try to get the list to find where Michael Anderson lived and try to get the list from him, a copy of the list. Do you know if they ever did? Yeah, they met up with him later and they hadn't been able to get it. Did you have any conversation with the Vernons about some weapons caches or where the weapons would be stored? That day in general? Oh yeah, that day, yeah. Lonnie talked about the caches quite a bit, the weapons caches and the militia had. All right, what were the locations that he mentioned to you? The three that were talked about there, one was a Broadway Road out at his house, and then also the Chena Hot Springs Road, around 10 miles on Chena Hot Springs. Did you ever make it up to Chena Hot Springs Road location? No, I didn't. How about the Broadway Road location? Yes, I did. At some point, you did? Yes, I did. About what month do you recall? It was shortly after this, February. Okay, did you ever have a conversation with Mr. Vernon about communication towers? Yes, we did. And when did you have that conversation with him? I don't mean today, but just in a general sense. It was right about this time, maybe a little later. Tell the jury a couple of weeks later about your conversation, where you had it and what you guys talked about. We were in the parking lot of McDonald's, A&W restaurant, talking out there, and we wanted to. The plan was to take and shoot out a few of the communication towers, and then some electrical transformers, call cell towers and electrical transformers, and create a diversion that all the law enforcement and emergency responders would come run into that diversion that we created, and take a two-man team and go out and hit all the judges and law enforcement houses with their families. Were there other things that you were going to use with these communication towers besides shooting them out? Were those discussed? Yeah, we talked about blowing them up. What was that after this conversation you had in a restaurant about the things that went white and blue? Yeah, it was. Yeah, the conversation in the parking lot was, I don't like to say, I don't remember exactly when. But it was a few days later. Okay. Scrocky, Madam Clerk, if we could go have the lights, please. If you could pull up 447, Mr. Olson. Without going into the contents of this photo, do you recognize what's depicted here? Yes, I do. Is that the approximate location of where you sat with Mr. Vernon and spoke about the things you just testified to? Not from where the picture's taken, but from over there in the parking lot there. Okay, across the street? Yeah, across the street, yeah. Are some of the things you spoke about with respect to knocking out communications and power poles visible in that photo? Yes, they are. We offer objection 447, no objection. Ms. Hayden, no, excuse me, objection. Sorry, no objection. It may be admitted. Scrocky. So, Mr. Olson, where were you in connection with this photo? Were you sitting, Mr. Vernon, having this discussion? If you look on the other side of the building, there's by the brown part of the building to the left of that, there's a kind of red mark. We're sitting over in there in the parking lot on the other side there. That's a big parking lot. Right here, back in there? Yeah, back in there, yeah. Underneath the Colonel and the A&W sign, yeah, but back behind wasn't under the sign. It was on the other side of that sign. The other sign? Yeah, the sign's kind of by the drive-through. There's a drive-through there? Sure, all right. If you could orient the jury as to the specific things you were talking about with Mr. Vernon for targeting communications and electrical systems. We were sitting with the back of his pickup to the building, so it was facing out away from this picture, and if you look up to the left of the A&W sign, you'll see a cell tower there, And that was off, yeah, right there. That was off in the distance, and he pointed to that and talking about the communication towers. And then he pointed over to one of those poles over here on the left. Yeah, one of those on the further one back. No, not that, oops. One because he would have been behind us. Yeah, back there. He was talking about the transformers on power poles. You guys were sitting in a parking lot of the A&W KFC talking about taking out communications and power, yeah. After the conversation or this meeting discussion you had with Mr. Vernon, did he convey to you whether he had tried to get a hold of Mr. Anderson, or was that afterwards, if you can recall? I don't recall. I think that was on the same day. Well, I know it was the same day that he had met with the restaurant earlier. We met up later on the day after him, and Karen went out to try and get a hold of Michael Anderson, and that was this day, the same day, yeah. Yeah, the power or, the communications and transformer discussed happened on the same day. All right. If we could have the lights, Denali, how long did Mr. Cox stay at the Vernon's home, in terms of days? Yes, it was about 3 or 4 days, I think, maybe 5. And who was with Mr. Cox? He had his wife and 2 kids, his little 4 or 5-year-old boy, and then a newborn baby. And Marty Cox was there as well, and Marty, yes, his wife as well. Did there come a point in time where Mr. Cox left the Vernon residence? Yes, there was. Where did he go? To Coleman Barney's. And were you part of that? Yes, I was, yes. Could you tell the jury about what you observed and what you did with respect to that move? We had a command staff meeting in Coleman Barney's attic or upstairs of his house, and Lonnie and Vernon were there, as well as the Coleman Barney, Schaefer, myself, and Ken Thessing. Lonnie just unloaded on Schaefer. He was upset, Lonnie and Karen, mainly Lonnie, about them being out of his house and his Schaefer's kids being noisy, and it was attracting attention of the neighbors, and Schaefer was using his landline phone to call people, and he was upset about that, and so they wanted him gone. They wanted him out of there. I want you to take a look at the beginnings of, if we could all turn to 2402, are you there, sir? Yes, I am. Take a look at the beginnings of that. Does that reflect that conversation you just mentioned? Yeah, it is, yeah. When you were talking to the Vernons about Mr. Anderson, was there any mention of them or making their own type of list? Yeah, Lonnie said Karen can make a list, and we can make our own list. We don't need him to do it. You ever know if they did that or not? I don't know for sure. All right, Scrocky, play the audio. Do you recall the conversation, Mr. Olson, yesterday? How long did that go on? It was about 2 hours probably. And where was this conversation? Up in the upstairs of Coleman Barney's house. The way upstairs is kind of an attic area. So who was present during the exchange or this conversation between Mr. Cox and Mr. Vernon that you heard? It was Lonnie and Karen Vernon, myself, Ken Thessing, Schaefer Cox, and Coleman Barney. Can you tell the jury what the point of the meeting was? Just for Lonnie to vent, and then we talked about what we were going to do from here on forward with Schaefer, and then we decided that to move Schaefer into Coleman's house. Did you do that? Yeah, we did after. After the meeting, how was that accomplished? I went, because Schaefer had rode it in with the Vernons in their pickup, they had to go to the Fairbanks, so I took Schaefer back to the Vernons' house and loaded up all their stuff, and they had there and his wife and kids, and brought them back to cover to Coleman's. So was Mr. Cox driving a passenger in your vehicle? Yeah, he was, yeah. Was he wearing anything in particular that you noticed that you have already testified about? A bulletproof vest? They had bulletproof vest on. It was that one that the silver canisters on it. No, it wasn't that one. It was the plain white one. A smaller one, a different one. Under the coat one? Yeah, that one we just carried. Oh, you just carried that in? Yeah. Was that pretty heavy? Oh, yeah, that was heavy. It had a lot of gear on it. What other items did you bring from Mr. Vernon's to Mr. Barney's home? Some guns? He had a gun, a couple of guns out there, a couple of assault rifles, handguns, ammo, suitcase, bags for the clothes for them and the kids, baby items, a couple of boxes, just personnel items, because they had been camping out or staying out there. All right, Mr. Scrocky, I'm going to have you turn to the next clip that we have, which for the jury on the upper right-hand page is 171. Okay, let's start at the top of page 101. Page is 171, that's 2407. It's a conversation between yourself and the Barneys present and Mr. Vernon present. Yes, and you're talking about the Alaska court system and some other matters. Yeah, this is some of the same conversation. We're covered in a whole variety of other topics here. I'm sorry, how long again was this meeting that you had upstairs? About 2.5 hours maybe, somewhere in there. Scrocky, play the audio. Do you know, Mr. Olson, how the phrase the feds got involved in this conversation? Because, if you recall, Coleman had asked him who was looking for him, who was coming after him, and if it was just the Alaska court system or the feds. Okay, if we could go to 2409, can you look at that, Mr. Olson? Yeah. And do you recall where the conversation was taking place? This would have been on the way back to Vernon's house. In your vehicle? In my truck, yeah. And who's the passenger? Schaefer Cox? Alright, play the audio. So, Mr. Olson, is this one of the trips back and forth moving gear from Mr. Vernon's house to Mr. Barney's? It was going from Mr. Barney's out to the Vernons to pick up the gear and his wife and kids. When Mr. Cox referenced the judge that didn't sleep a wink on Monday, to what was he referring to, as you understood it? To his state court case, the judge was in charge of that case. 2410 is one further conversation, yeah it is. That's between you and Mr. Cox, yeah it is. And it concerns some discussion with the troopers in the court system, yeah, okay. Play the audio. Question, during one of these trips back and forth to Mr. Vernon's home and back to Mr. Barney's home, Mr. Olson, did you make a suggestion to Mr. Cox about how to get out of the country or out of the state? At some point that day I did. I don't remember if it was one of the trips back and forth or if it was back to Coleman's house and we got back over there. I'm not sure exactly when. All right, you recall suggesting something to Mr. Cox? Yes, I do. What did you suggest to him? I told him that I knew a trucker that could haul him out of his wife and kids out with some of their stuff because he wanted to get down to the States, and I've got a friend that's a trucker that would haul you out, put your stuff in the back of his trailer, and you guys could hide in this sleeper and get through customs. So this was your idea? Yeah, it was. Was it something you ran by Agent Sutherland beforehand? I don't remember if I did or not. I don't think I did, but okay, I can't say for sure. Did you tell him about it at some point? Yeah, I did right after. I think it all came right on the fly, kind of out of the blue, because Schaefer was trying to find a way out, and I came up with it on the fly, I believe. And we're talking about the middle of February. This is time frame right now? Yeah, it would have been, yeah. And so did this trucker discussion, and can we call it a plan? Yeah, it was a plan. Did that carry itself all the way through to the day of the arrest on March 10th? Yeah, it did. It worked out real good because we could use that to delay things and keep things going, because I was saying that the trucker was broke down and different things were coming up. After you suggested the availability of this trucker, did you coordinate with Agent Sutherland about this? Yeah, I did. Yeah, right, that day. And concerning when I told him, from where did you get your directions to convey to Mr. Cox about, you mentioned delays and other things. Where did you get that information from? That all came from Agent Sutherland would tell me, and would come up with a plan before, or what we were going to do and how we were going to get it delayed, because he had stuff that I wasn't probably privy to, working on the, behind the scenes. So after all the initial broach of that subject, direction and control came from Agent Sutherland, yeah it did. Can I have you look at 24-11? Yes. Did you see the first paragraph there? Yeah, I do. That's related to what, Mr. Olson? CS grenades, and does this concern the transportation of those into Mr. Barney's home? Yeah, it was. All right. Play the audio. Now, are those, you heard the word CS grenades? Yeah. Are those the two silver items that you mentioned you had seen before? Yeah, on that strapped on the flak jacket. Can you examine 24-12, please? Okay. Do you recall the setting of that conversation? Yeah, this was down in Coleman Barney's office now, and who's engaged in this conversation? Coleman Barney, myself, and Schaefer. Okay, here in Barney's office? Yeah, just in the office at his house. Just the three of you? Yeah, there were their wives and kids maybe coming in and out, but not part of the conversation. Can you orient us as to the move, is the move complete now? Yeah, it is. The last little clip about the CS grenades was just that we moved into the house, or moved all their stuff into the house, and the flak jacket was sitting there on the floor, and the kids were coming up and wanting to play with it, and that's what he was talking about, get it out of there, because we don't have all the kids getting a hold of these. So we had just moved all the stuff out of the pickup and into the house. Okay, so the moving part from the Vernons is done. Yes. And then we go in and have a meeting in Coleman's office. All right, that's 24-12. Yes, okay, yeah. Play the audio. Overall, Mr. Olson, how long did you meet and discuss after the move with Mr. Barney and Mr. Cox? It was probably an hour or so, that particular meeting. Over the course of the remaining time in the investigation, did you have occasion to go back to Mr. Barney's home and meet with them? Yes, several more times. And occasionally, would you meet with Mr. Cox by himself? Yes, I did. Can I have you look at 24-13, please? Yes. This furthers the conversation that afternoon? Yeah, it is. Play the audio. Mr. Cox mentions he's going to crawl into a Connex and stay with his buddy. Who is he referring to? Crawl into a Connex with my buddy? The buddy that was going to haul him out. He was going to have Connex on the flatbed trailer or the semi. Over the course of the discussion of, moving out to Alaska per what you suggested, Were there areas of state or states that would discuss that ultimately where Mr. Cox could go? Yeah, he was wanting to go down to Montana. To Montana, yeah. If I could have you examine 2414, there is a reference to a stash with some goodies out there. I don't see a turn to the last page. The last page, okay, yeah. What was that a reference to? What part of your actions with Mr. Cox and Mr. Barney is that referring to? One of the weapons caches. Ultimately, did you go to that location? Yeah, I did. Can we play the audio? Mr. Olson, with respect to the discussion on Mr. Cox said he's going to pick some cherries to take with him. Yeah. Where did you end up ultimately going? To where the cache was, to the property on Broadway Road. Can you describe the property? That fixture was on the property for the jury. It was a trailer house with a little addition, like an Arctic entryway onto the house, onto the side, and then kind of over behind it off to the side with a shed. And that's where the cache was in this shed, like a garden shed. When you say a trailer home, what do you mean? A mobile home, 14 by 70 trailer house style. Okay, and you removed the items from where? From the storage shed that was out back or off to the side, kind of. If I can have you look at 2415 and the reference to 241, yeah, it is. I see that. Go ahead, play the audio. In 2416, did your conversation continue about 241 and other matters? Yeah, it is. Okay, play the audio. And 2417 is the final clip with respect to this conversation. Yeah, it is. Okay, play the audio. 2502, Mr. Olson, yes. Take a look at that first paragraph if you could. Yes, please provide for the jury the context of what's going on here with this clip. This is over at the trailer house on Broadway Road that we were just talking about, where the weapons cache was. And did you coordinate with anybody when you went to the Broadway Road location? Yes, with Coleman and Schaefer. How did you guys coordinate that? On the phone, I called them up and I followed them in because I didn't know exactly where it was. So you had your truck, I had my truck, and they were in Coleman's truck. A pickup truck, yeah, a black Dodge pickup. Alright, so you went out to this location. What kind of time of day was it? Let me try it this way. This is February in Fairbanks? Yeah, okay. Let's try light or dark. It was light. I'm thinking about noonish. 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe 1, somewhere in there. Alright, and so Mr. Barney and Mr. Cox traveled together, yeah. And they went to this location, you followed them? And they went to this location and you followed them, and I followed them, and I met them, and they followed them in the last couple of miles. Okay, so in general sense, and we'll get to the audio clips in a second, tell the jury what you did when you got there. We pulled up and got out. Schaefer had to go up to the door to talk to the lady that he was renting. He had some issues there with her that he had to deal with, and he had Coleman and I back to the shed, to the cache, and clean it out, empty it out. We had to pack everything. We brought everything out to Coleman's truck and loaded it up. So there was a woman there? Yeah, there was. And a renter, yes. And anybody speak with her that you saw? Schaefer did. He was up at the door talking to her. Okay. And how long was he talking to her? Pretty much the whole time we were unloading the cache, 15 minutes. So you guys did all the lifting? Yeah. You and Mr. Barney? Yeah. We loaded it up and unloaded the shed and loaded it into the pickup truck, the back. It was an extended cab pickup, so we loaded the back seat. When you got there, was the shed the type that was open or not? It was locked up. It had a padlock on it, just a regular padlock on the door. How did you guys get into it? Coleman knew where the key was, and so he got the key and unlocked it, and we went in. You saw him find the key? Yeah, he knew where it was. Where was it? Around the back side of the rail, or, up the eaves, kind of where the roof comes down on the eaves of the shed there? So he just went around to the back, fetched it, and came back around the front? Yeah. So you opened it up. What was inside in terms of when you look into it? What do you see inside? There was a bunch of guns, rifles all around the edges, leaning up against the walls, and then several containers of ammo and ammo cans, a big 50 caliber looking gun on the floor, and a tripod, and then some other gear as well. Other miscellaneous military type gear. Did you take everything out of the shed, or did you leave some items behind? We left all the lawn tools. There was a hose and rakes and lawn tools, for the yard work kind of stuff. But all the militia gear we took out. You just mentioned lawn gear. Was it for the specific residence, or the volume of stuff indicative of something else? I'm not sure. I really don't know. I could have been for the residence. I don't know. Okay, there wasn't like a ton of lawn stuff in there, was there? No. There was just, 2 or 3 rakes, a couple of shovels, that kind of thing. Typical for a home, yeah. Alright, so how long did you take to unload the shed? Like I said, probably 15 minutes, 10 minutes. It wasn't there that long. There was 2 of us when we were packing the stuff back and forth. Alright, we have a number of clips with respect to this activity. Yeah, we do. Alright, play the audio. Mr. Cox mentioned he was going to talk to Jamie. Yeah. Did you ever know what Jamie last name was? No, I didn't. I never heard. Did you get a look at her while she was talking to Mr. Cox? No, not a clear enough look to where I could identify her. Okay, play the audio. So we're moving some items out here that Mr. Olson, yeah. Was some of them of the type you could carry yourself? Yeah, they were. Oh, all of it was? Yeah. It was, containers of ammo and different things. Were you and Mr. Barney going in tandem back and forth or separated? How did it work? Separate, He would head out and then I'd gather stuff up and we were just going, separately back and forth. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, you asked Mr. Barney, are these what I think they are? Yes, relay that to the jury. Relay them to what you were asking about. We were picking up some ammo cans. They were about 1 by 8 inch ammo cans, and I thought they could be grenades. So I was asking him, are these what I think they are? As we were picking up, each had an ammo can in hand, walking out to his truck with him. Was that a tasking from Special Agent Sutherland? Yeah, all along. Or as soon as they started talking about having grenades and wanting more grenades, Agent Sutherland had wanted me to try to get my eye on them to see where they were, and also with all the talk of weapons caches, to get into the weapons caches. That was always a big thing, a big push, so I was always trying to get my eyes on those. So Mr. Barney says, no, that's a sealed ammo can. Yeah, and do you remember hearing what you just heard? Do you remember going back into the shed? Yeah, we picked up the cans and they were talking about, that I was talking about when I asked that walked out into the back of his truck. Each of us carrying 2 cans, 1 in each hand. Where did you go back? Where did you go from there? I went out to the truck. He was arranging stuff. I set my 2 cans. He set his 2 cans on the ground by the door in his pickup, and I set 2 there and turned around and headed back to get more gear because there was a bunch of more cans in there, and I wanted to leave him there while he was occupied to get back in there and do some snooping inside the can, like Agent Sutherland had told me to do. And so did you get that snooping? So did you do that snooping you just talked about? Yes, I did. There was a reference here in the transcript where it says, oh my God, did you see that? Yes, I did. Did you see that? Yes, I did. Please tell the jury why you uttered that statement. I got back into the shed and popped open a used-looking can. The other ones were pretty new-looking cans. Then I popped open this one and I seen 8 grenades in the can. I grabbed one and picked it up and looked. They were laid out there in 2 rows. All right, you said 8 grenades, yes. Can you describe what you saw? You saw 8. Did you count them? Yeah, I did. Yeah. Was there anything else you noticed about the grenades themselves? Just that they were grenades with pins and, all ready to go. They didn't have the bolts on the bottom. They were real legit ones. They had no holes in the bottom. No holes in the bottom. They weren't homemade, They didn't have holes or bolts. Was there anything else with respect to that you noticed how they looked or how they were secured? They had tape, electrical tape, and wrapped around them to hold the pins in place so they wouldn't come undone or wouldn't fall out or get pulled out. So after you saw the 8 grenades, what did you do? I closed it up. That's when I said, oh my God. Did you report that back to Agent Sutherland? Yes, I did. Yeah, right. And as soon as I was done, I don't remember if it was on the phone or at the debrief, but I definitely told him right away. With respect to the grenade bodies that you saw, or the grenades that you saw, are they the pineapple top or the round top? They were the pineapple top. The pineapple top, yeah, the ones that with the ridges on them. And was the other item? Were there other items that you continued to move out of the shed at the time, or was that pretty much it? No, I don't remember. I think there was wrapping up. There was a lot of stuff, so I don't remember, and that was in the time frame of emptying the shed. So you carried the box back? Yeah, I closed that one up and then picked up another one and headed back with it because I could hear Coleman walking down the trail. So where did you put it? In Coleman's truck? I brought it back to his truck. Okay. Your Honor, we can keep going if you want this afternoon or break now. This would be a good point because we shift gears. Okay, it's about that time. We'll take a 15-minute break. You may be excused. All rise. This matter is recessed for 50 minutes. All rise. His dishonor of the court, this United States dishonorable court is again in session. Please be seated. Okay, bring the jury in, I guess. All right, Mrs. Scrocky, you may continue. Yes, Your Honor. Scrocky, Mr. Olson, you were, before the break, talking about what you observed in the shed, yeah? And you said there were 8 pineapple grenades in the shed. Yeah, there were. And you put them where? I put them back, and I only grabbed one out, but put it back in the can, and then put them in the can in Coleman Barney's truck in the back seat. At some point, did Mr. Cox cease talking to the woman you saw on the property? Yeah. It was about the same time, and then we had Coleman, and I got everything loaded up, and it's all kind of worked out about the same time. Okay, hold on. Go ahead. Do you need one? Go ahead. Okay, because we have plenty of counsel table. We'll take one of yours, even if they're not needed. I left mine in chambers. Scrocky. Mr. Olson, you said that you put these items back in Mr. Barney's car and from truck. There, I'm sorry, his truck. Thank you. So from there, Mr. Cox comes back. Do you guys converse any further? Not that I recall. Nothing specific that I recall. Okay. From your understanding of being there that afternoon, where were these items taken? Over to Coleman Barney's house? And how do you know that? That's what they told me they were going to take them back to, and they had a planned place to put them. Do you recall having any conversation with Mr. Barney later on about the circumstances of driving with items in his car? Yeah. After they left there, they went into Fairbanks and drove around, and there was at some point on the drive into Fairbanks, there was a trooper that was following him and then coming up beside him, and he was telling the story later about how they were just sweating bullets because they got Schaefer with a warrant and all these weapons in the back seat. Okay, now he didn't specifically mention grenades to you? Correct, no he didn't. He was just talking about the gun and Mr. Cox being in his car. Yes, and if I could have you turn your attention to 26, do you have that there? Yes, I do. That's a conversation between yourself and Mr. Vernon? Yes, it is. To what does that refer to? It refers to the silencer that we talked about with Bill Fulton down in Anchorage. Is that what you referring to? Yes, it is. Okay, Scrocky, 26, play the audio. Turn to 27, but I've got one question for you, Mr. Olson, and on 26. Mr. Vernon is speaking to you about 5 or 6. To what is he referring to? 5 or 6, what was that at? Oh, 5 or 600, the cost? Yeah, the price. Yeah, dollars. This phone call was made between you and Mr. Vernon. Were you when this call was placed? I don't remember specifically where I was at, probably in my pickup. It was a telephone call. It was a phone call, yes. All right. And do you recall having the occasion to go back to Mr. Barney's house around that time frame? Yes, I did. I'll have you turn to Exhibit 27, and this concerns a discussion about hand grenades. Yes, it is. Scrocky, 27, please play the audio. Yes. And this is the conversation taking place where, Mr. Olson? This is Coleman Barney's office again the next day or so. You know where they were before. Scrocky, play the audio. Let's go right into 03. This is a continuation of your conversation about the dragon's nest, dragon skin body armor. Yes, it is. Play the audio. We can move forward to 2705. Is there a discussion with Mr. Cox, Mr. Olson, about something fully automatic? Yeah. Agent Sutherland had tasked me because he wanted to get a hold of the stuff in the cache that we moved over, some of those weapons, so he had asked me to try to buy some to see if they would sell me some. Sell you what? Sell you what? Sell me grenades or weapons, anything that I could get my hands on from them, including a fully automatic machine gun, including fully automatic. Yeah. Play the audio. So the Sten wasn't for sale? No, it wasn't. Can you turn to 2707? Yeah. And that's a discussion about what? He was talking about a guy he knew on base that could get information. He had access to information, and he would update Schaefer on the stuff that he heard. All right. Play the audio. In the audio, 2801. Yes. If you could just scan that for us briefly, just the first page or so. Yes. Where is this conversation occurring? This is in back of Barney's residence. Okay, do you have an idea about the approximate time in February, middle of the month? This was the time. This was within a couple of days of the last few days. Have been fairly close together, and we've been listening to here. All right. And what's the conversation about? This is about silencers. The phone call that we just had listened to with Lonnie wanting the silencers. I talked to him, and we didn't hear it, but I talked to him sometime between the conversation that we're going to hear and the one I talked to him last, and he told me that Coleman and Schaefer were interested in silencers too. So I relayed that to Rick or the agent Sutherland, and then he said, we'll see if they want to buy some. So, and that's where this comes in. Yeah, and that's the precipitated this conversation. Yes, okay, play the audio. Mr. Olson, what did you tell Mr. Barney and Mr. Cox with respect to how Mr. Fulton would get silencers to them? He said he was a Class 3 dealer so he could get them legitimately, and then he made them disappear in some way off the books. Anybody seem to reject that offer? No. That's how they wanted them. Is 2802 continuance of the discussion about the silencers? Yes, it is. Okay, Scrocky 2802, play the audio. Are you being shown a Glock pistol at this point? Yes, I was. Whose pistol was it? Schaefer's? Hold on. What was he doing with it? He had it in his pocket and he pulled it out of his pocket and he was working the action. And as the action came all the way back, the barrel at the end would pop up. Just the way the action worked, the barrel, you know, lifted a little bit. He was explaining it, so yeah, he was explaining the process of how the silencer was out there with the barrel lifting up. It would probably mess things up. All right, the audio. Mr. Olson, do you have any familiarity with ammunition? A little bit, yeah. Do you know the difference between a center fire or why a center fire is different than some other type of round? Yeah, I do. Why is that? It's a bigger caliber. And as opposed to what other type, there's a center fire. What's the other type? Do you know? A center fire and then just a solid one. It's like a 22 shell that isn't a center fire. A center fire has a little deal in the middle, in the back of the bullet where the hammer hits. A primer? Yeah, there you go. 2803, continue the discussion about silencers. Yeah, we do. What was the conversation? Where was this conversation occurring? This was the specific one about the homemade silencers, was in Barney's kitchen, and we were kind of going back and forth between the kitchen and Barney's office, and back and forth in the kitchen and Barney's office, and which is right off the kitchen. Okay, so we're talking about silencers here in 2803, yeah. With respect to what you mentioned about Mr. Fulton and the silencer down at the militia convention, I take it, yes. Was that true? No, that was not. You made that up? I made it up, yeah. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, that's you and Mr. Cox having a discussion, yes. And how many different types of silencers did he describe to you? Three different ones, 2 homemade ones, and then we call one, and then the one with the oil. Where was Mr. Barney? He was around, drifting in. We'll probably hear him in a minute. Him there in a minute. And was he around for this conversation? No, not for the whole thing, no. All right, play the audio. Mr. Olson, take a glance at 2804, yeah. There's a reference to an HK93, yeah. And do you recall the exchanges you had with Mr. Cox in reference to an HK93, yeah? I had asked him before about the fully automatic, if he had any fully automatic stuff. So he remembered that he had an HK93 that was fully auto. So he's telling me about it here. Was that, what was the discussion you had with him with respect to an HK93 in terms of the investigation and its moving forward? And the pistol silencer combination we just heard about on the recording. We discussed trading in it because I was going to get the match set, the silencer and the 9mm pistol. And we had the fully automatic HK93, and I don't know if it's in the recording that we're going to hear, but at some point we're talking about the prices, they were going about the same. So we just decided to trade straight across for he gave the HK93 and gave him the silencer and the pistol set. And that's looking to be the 2804. Yes, it looks like it. Play the audio. All right, Mr. Olson, we're going to finish up with the Exhibit 28 in just a minute, but let's go back briefly over the conversation we just heard, this HK, and Mr. Cox was giving you some instructions. Yes, he was. And you're familiar with the HK to some extent? Yes, I am. I used to own one. Okay, and you mentioned the lower receiver, yes, and something about a switch, a pin. There's a pin that you pop out and to take it out. All right. Oh, and 3 you're talking about there, that's to go from the safe fire fully automatic position selector switch, a semi-automatic one that's legal to own. It just has 2 safe positions, and fire safe fully automatic ones have 3. They have a 3rd position, and that's what we're talking about here, there. All right, so you have you have to get a rifle, and you get, I guess, an upper receiver. Yeah, the top part, and the lower part is where the pistol grip is, and the selector and the switch, and then you have the select fire and the firing modes. And can you hear Mr. Cox talk about that in the conversation? Yeah, that's what he was talking about. There was also some discussion in there about machining things or working some pieces inside the rifle to make it a sept apart. Yeah. Can you explain to the jury what he's talking about? The upper receiver has a post that fits down that the pin goes through when the lower receiver clicks up into it. And the one that he had, the gun with a legal receiver, was a different style than that of the 3-position receiver, the fully automatic receiver. So that post on the upper receiver had to be reworked, ground down, reworked in some way to make the lower receiver that was fully automatic to fit on there. Well, was that making sense to you? Yes. Oh yeah, I knew exactly what he's talking about. So you were tracking with him? Yeah, I was. And who suggested a trade or a swap? He did. Ultimately, did you have occasion to meet up with this Mr. Rob Carr? Yeah, I did. And did you have occasion to actually get in your possession the rifle we're talking about there? Yeah, Schaefer wrote me a note to give to Rob Carr saying that I was there to pick the gun up for him, so I went and met up with him. Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to all those pieces, but okay, so I wanted to talk about that before we moved away from it. So, okay, yeah. Let's finish up Exhibit 28, then we'll move back to the note and some other notes. Okay, Exhibit 2805, Mr. Barney's part of this conversation. Yes, he is. All right. Scrocky, 2805. Play the audio. All right, let's take a break from the headsets for a few moments, Mr. Olson. Let's talk about Mr. Carr. You mentioned you got a note. Yeah, I did. And you actually received the firearm from Mr. Cox and some component pieces to go with that. I got it from Carr, but I got the permission to go pick it up from Mr. Rob, from Schaefer. You got those from Mr. Cox. You got the component pieces from Mr. Carr? Yeah, I did. Yeah, all right. Well, I went and I picked up the gun, but he wouldn't give me the lower receiver. Okay, so then at a separate time, another time, Schaefer and I went, and the Schaefer, we drove down over his gun shop, and then he gave the lower receiver to Schaefer, who Schaefer Cox in turn gave it to me. It was a separate day. A separate day? Yeah, okay. If we could have 124 and then 125, 127, 128, could you have the lights, please, Canali? Without going into the contents of the notes that you on your screen, Mr. Olson, yes. Is this the one you're talking about that Mr. Cox wrote for you? Yeah, it is. It's directed towards Mr. Carr? Yeah, it is. We offer 124, no objection, it may be omitted. Can you read the note, Mr. Olson? It says, Rob, give my C93 and lower to J.R. Olson. Don't give him any guff. He's one of the good guys, thanks. And then Schaefer Cox with his hand, with his signature, P.S. I don't need the light 9mm Uzi anymore. So you mentioned that you went to Mr. Carr. Did you take the note with you? Yeah, I did, yeah. And that wasn't enough? That wasn't enough for him to give the fully automatic lower receiver, no? All right, if you could have the lights, Denali. Mr. Olson, Agent Sutherland, put the rifle down to your left-hand side. Yes, that's Exhibit 126. Okay. Is this the rifle that we're talking about here? Yes, it is. Okay, I need you to open up 127 and 128 separately. Just look at them for us and let us know if you recognize those two items. Yes, I do. Would those be component parts to the rifle that you spoke of? Yes, they are. We offer 126, 127, 128. No objection, no objection. They may be admitted. Mr. Olson, if you could just take those, try to keep them separate for us, but take the component pieces out. Agent Sutherland is going to hold the rifle up for us. Okay, so that's the HK you were talking about. Yes, it is. And right now, you can see a selector switch. You were speaking of, Mr. Olson. Yes, it's right there. And what positions? Positions are on the selector switch. It's got safe and fire for 2 positions. Can you pick up the lower receiver you got with respect to your swap of Mr. Cox? Did you see that? Is there a selector positions on that lower selection of the rifle? Okay, I'm going to stop at page 141. Yes, there is. How many? 3? And you got that from Mr. Carr? Yeah, we did. In the company with Mr. Cox? Yeah, we did. So just a day or two. Show the jury real quick how that would maneuver it so you can show them how it would fit on the rifle. There's a pin right there. This pin would pop out and this would fold down and come away. And this one would click in its place, and then you'd have a fully automatic machine gun. Okay, and then the remaining exhibits, I believe it's 128, are the magazines? Yeah, they are. Could you hold those up for the jury too, please? They would fit at the bottom of the rifle, yeah. They would click in the slot here and lock in. They're not, those are not loaded, are they? No, they're not. Okay, after you. You can take it back, Rick, thank you. After you received those pieces, Mr. Olson, did you give those to, I turned them over to Agent Sutherland. Mr. Olson, during that time Mr. Cox was at Mr. Barney's residence, did you receive some notes from him? Yeah, I did. Okay, Scrocky, let me have 123. I'm trying to speed up with you here, Mr. Olson, so we're going to go through a couple of exhibits for authentication. Okay. I need you to work with me and listen to my questions about the content and whether you can identify the exhibits we put up in front of you, okay? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, do you recognize that item? Yes, I do. Is that something you received from Mr. Cox while he was at Mr. Barney's residence? Yeah, it was, yeah. And it was a note with reference to an individual that you know or know his identity? Yeah, I did. It's Joe on top there, his renter. And it's got Rob. There's a few other guys on there too. But, okay, so you know of a Joe? Yeah, I do, Rob. All right, and Mr. Cox gave this to you? Yeah. To be delivered to Joe? Yeah, he did. All right, Scrocky, let's go down to 437. Yeah, they are. Do you recognize the names of those phone numbers and the circumstances of those numbers on that page, sir? Yes, I do. All right, let's go to 467. There's some numerical writing on those pieces of paper. Mr. Olson, do you recognize that? Yes, I do. Is that in connection with the phone numbers we just spoke about on the prior page? Yes, it is. Scrocky, and lastly, 468. It's another note you received from Mr. Cox? Yes, it is. And do you recognize the writing? Yes, it's Mr. Cox's handwriting. And do you know the nature of the purpose of this note? Yeah, I do. All right, Your Honor, we offer 123, 437, 438, 467 and 468, no objection, that may be admitted. Scrocky, Mr. Olson, this note you received from who, sir? From Schaefer Cox. And who is Joe? Joe was his renter that rented a room in his basement. All right, I want to focus on the right-hand side of that note. Can we read the rectangle there? And I've highlighted on the right-hand side, second slash down. It says the AR with the grenade launcher is yours. It's yours. If I don't make it back. Do you recall having conversation with Mr. Cox about an AR? Yes, I do. And were you also tasked with doing something in reference to a grenade launcher in his home? He wanted me to get it for him to pick it up. You didn't find that correct? No, I couldn't. This is the third page of Exhibit 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to circle in third bullet down below. Do you see that? Yes, I do. Can you read that? It says, trust Jim and ask JR or Coleman if you need help. All right, thank you. I missed a spot. Let's back up to the first page. Do you want me to read that? Can you read that, please? Okay, yeah, go talk to Rob at a little gun shop by Blondie's. He has an HK-C93 with a full auto loader that belongs to me. Do you know if Joe did that? I don't know. Scrocky, let's go to 437. Do you see that there, Mr. Olson? Yes, I do. Now, I want to give you, the jury, some context as to these phone numbers and their creation. Where were you, how it was done, and what were you doing? We all had prepaid phones that I got. Coleman and I were buying prepaid phones, too, for Schaefer to communicate on, and we had the yellow phones, and there were phones that could call just normal people that weren't involved with the militia, or phones that were originally a red phone that had been compromised. They became yellow phones, and the red phones where it says down at the bottom red, Norm, Schaefer, J.R. Olson, Coleman Red. These were phones that could call each other. Only for us four could call each other with these phones too, to talk about things. These were the top secret phones. Who's Norm? Norm Olson down on the Kenai. So Norm gets a red phone. I had to mail him one. I mailed him a phone, or actually mailed, turned it over to Rick or Agent Sutherland, then we mailed it off to him. Did you do that? Yes, I did. Now let's take a look at the yellow phone list. I'm just going to highlight on the right-hand side, it appears all three columns are identical. Yes, they are. So let's talk about the yellow side on the right. They were three separate papers that we had to. They were cut in half, and we each had on our wallet. So the Coleman, Schaefer, and I had a copy of everyone's phone numbers, all our throwaway phone numbers. Yeah, all right. And this was their copy somewhere? Yeah, it was. Yeah, he wrote it out and then made copies of it. Where at? At Coleman's house on his copy machine, all right. So fax machine, wherever it was. Okay, so let's talk about Les. Who would Les be? That'd be Les Thurby. How about Jim? Jim was the guy that was buying that trailer house from the weapons cache up in the North Pole. Where you want to collect the weapons? Yeah, at the weapons. And then Schaefer's yellow? Yeah, yes. Coleman's and yours yellow? Yeah. And then you had two numbers at the bottom where it says MP phone and MP Steve? Yeah. Do you know anything about that person? I know MP Steve was a military policeman that would get him information once in a while that he needed it. Did he state that to you yourself? Yeah, he did, yeah. Did you ever meet Steve? No, never, no. Never did, no. So Mr. Cox was telling you that he had a guy named Steve he'd get information from? Yes, on the base that was on post on Fort Wainwright. Did you ever see them together? No, I didn't. I never seen him. Did you know what this guy looks like? I have no clue, no. Did you ever know if it's true? I didn't know. You mentioned Norm Olson in the red phone section, yeah. Are you guys related? No, no relation. So how long did you guys take to put this little system together? Oh goodness, we hashed that out for probably an hour and a half, coming up with different codes. You see at the bottom there's red phones that were scratched out and with just the last two digits there. And so tell the jury what that's all about. Honestly, I don't remember how the whole thing worked. It was some kind of code, and I can't remember how all that all played out, that all worked. Well, let me ask you this. Do the numbers in the right-hand column, 78, 62, 72, 85, do those mean anything to you? Those were the last two digits of I believe it was our yellow phones, 3 somehow. Those numbers were one above or one below the last two digits of our other phone number, and I don't remember how. So you might not have you might not have been successful at it, but you would have looked at those numbers on the end to determine which number to call. At the time, 14 months ago or whenever it was, I would have remembered, but now it's been too long to. I can't remember the details of how the whole code system worked. But these were blacked out for a reason. Yeah, in case somebody got a hold of what the list with those phone numbers on it, they wouldn't have access to those numbers. So let me see if I understand this. So the yellow phones, you can communicate with each other on a normal basis. Not normal. We could communicate with Schaefer on those because Coleman and I could call up and talk on our regular cell phones, or his landline or whatever, but it would had to do with communicating with Schaefer. And so when would you use the red phone? That was the top secret stuff you had to get. If something was going down with Schaefer getting arrested, or 241 would go into play, or something like that, this is when the red phones would be used. We were to carry them all on us at times and have them charged up and ready to go. Now, you mentioned this took a long time to put into practice to get the code system figured out. Schaefer was mainly the one coming up with all the codes and how to remember the numbers, and he had come up with about 4 different ways there. We were kind of working it out together, all of us kind of talking and figuring it out. But yeah, it took about an hour and a half to finally settle on the system here. And where did this take place? All of this stuff in Coleman's office. You have a recording of that? You made a recording of that? Yeah. That all would be recorded. Could we go to 467? Blow that up for us, thanks. Do you see that there, Mr. Olson? Yeah. And can you tell us what that is? That has to do with a phone number, but again, I don't know. I don't remember exactly. It's making no sense to you now. It's making no sense to me right now. Is it, and if you don't remember, you just don't remember, is it relation to the pages that we looked at, the prior exhibit 437? Yes, it is. Is there some sort of like Rosetta Stone on how to figure that out? Yeah, there was a code, but I knew at one time, but like I say, I forgot now. The last by Norm's phone, I see 78 on Norm's red phone, and the last 2 on these look like 78, or maybe that's not, looks like an 8, so it was tied to the phone system, Hal, but I don't remember. And when you got these documents, what did you do with them? I turned them over to Agent Sutherland and he made copies. So why is it necessary to have a communication strategy, Mr. Olson? Because we didn't want to communicate on regular landline phones, because he was running from the law, and he didn't want the authorities to be able to hear him on the regular phones. Were there other colors associated to other phones too? Or just doing red and yellow? Just red and yellow, yeah. Scrocky, could we have 468? Do you recall this note? Yes, I do. And could you read the first line? It says, Jim used the phone to call my untapped phone, 907-347-7420. All right. Let's keep moving all the way down to the note. Okay. Do not call my regular phone or my other phones that way. That may be tapped, or they will catch onto this phone. I just gave you a tap it to. Your secure line is 907-978-1674, pin 1674. My secure line, 907-347-7420. Love you, buddy. With respect to the phone list on 437, Exhibit 437, is there a corresponding number to a secure line on there, to Schaefer's secure line? Yeah, it says where he says my secure line, 347-7420. I don't see one on 437. Okay, do you have a number for the red phone there? It's blacked out, right? Yeah, it's blacked out, yeah. Okay, thank you. If we could have the lights, Madam Clerk. Mr. Olson, I believe we took a detour at 2807. Can you take a look at that for us? Was there a discussion? Yeah. A grenade launcher? Yeah, there is. Okay, play the audio. Okay, Mr. Olson, the transcript says mounted to my AR with HOV. Yes. Did you hear something different? I didn't know. I heard something Hornet or something. All right. And at the end of the transcript, it says Hornet's Nest. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. 2808 is another reference to grenade launcher. Turn the page. Yes, I'm here. Okay, play the audio. So that conversation was in reference to one of the notes we saw earlier. Okay, I'm stopping on 155. Okay, so that was a conversation in reference to one of those notes we saw earlier. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he wrote out a note for me to take up there. Can you turn to 2809? Yeah, I'm here. There's a reference to talking to Bill next. Yeah, and with respect to the prior conversation about the silencer purchase. Yes, it is. Play the audio. Was that Mr. Barney stating we need to keep our red phones in case you call us? Yeah, it is. 2810 is a brief segment concerning Rob Carr and then plans to travel out of state. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, was there at some point during the meetings around the time frame Mr. Barney's home that the discussion you and Mr. Barney had Mr. Cox referencing some wanted posters occurred? Yeah, there was. Could you relate to the jury about the nature of those wanted posters and what you were talking about? Coleman Schaefer told me that they were putting together some posters and they were going to post up around town, and that he wanted everyone to start putting up around town with a Robin Hood theme, with Schaefer as Robin Hood and the sheriff and all the bad guys, and they were going to try to find pictures of the judge involving in Schaefer's case and the court official and the trooper and the head of the troopers and as the bad guys from Robin Hood theme. And so we were going to make these posters and we're going to be putting them up like, okay, were these posters like, I'll give you a choice, were they real ominous type things, or were they just sort of whimsical based on a Disney movie is how I perceive them to be. Okay, there was just some discussion about these wanted posters and using caricatures or characters from a Disney film. Yeah. It was joking about, how funny this was going to be if to see these posters all over town. So it was light, kind of joking, frivolous conversation. Let's have you look back at Exhibit 29. This is referencing, yeah, it is, yeah. Just in general sense, briefly, because we're going to hear it on the radio. What are you telling Mr. Cox? I'm telling him again, Agent Sutherland had told me to stall. Schaefer had been asking me, when the trucker's coming, when he's coming. So Agent Sutherland kept telling me, we'll just keep stalling him. So that's what it is. We just kept up excuses as to why the trucker isn't showing him up to town to haul him out. All right, one follow-up question with respect to those posters. Were you tasked to do anything by Mr. Cox with respect to people that were looking at to put into those posters? Yeah, he wanted me to go downtown and use my cell phone camera to try and anonymously get a picture of Arnie, the prosecutor. I can't think of the first name, but the prosecutor that was prosecuting his case, he wanted a picture of him, a headshot, so that he could use to put on a poster because he was the only one that they couldn't find pictures of on the internet. Did you do that? No, I didn't. Let's go to 29.1. Okay, play the audio. And the second part, they're talking about Rob and Uzi and the Uzi, and referred to the note we're talking about earlier. You explained to Mr. Cox that I explained to him that I went to Rob's gun shop to pick up the HK-93, and all that I was able to get was the rifle. He wouldn't give me the lower receiver, 2904, please. We have a coding system in our binders, Judge, and the coding was missed 2904. I need to inquire if the jury has 2904 in their transcript binders. They do. Okay, I guess we're good. Did you have a chance to look at that conversation briefly, Mr. Olson? Yes, I did. What's that concerning? It's talking about grenades. And where did the conversation occur? This is up at Coleman Barney's rental cabins. Okay. And who are you talking as? Who are you having this conversation with? Mr. Cox and Mr. Barney. Play the audio. Mr. Olson, can you describe for us how you got to where you were having this conversation with Mr. Cox? I drove my pickup out there, and so we're in relation to Fairbanks. Where are you? It's south of Fairbanks, out by Esther. About the cabins themselves, we're probably 10 miles from Fairbanks, south of Fairbanks. You went south on the highway about 5 miles and turned off on the highway, and then you wound around some other roads to get there. And these are the cabins you mentioned? Yeah, they are. In what state are they? Are they residents? Are they new? Are they old? What are they like? Yeah, they're new. In fact, the one we were in, they were cleaning up, getting ready to rent. He had somebody come in to look to rent it, and they were in various states of being built from on down. Most of them all framed up and in, and they weren't finished on the inside. So when you got there, was Mr. Cox there? Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was there with who? With Coleman. Were there other folks doing work around the area at that time? Yeah, there were two other guys that worked for Coleman, and were they working on the cabins? Did you know who they were? No, I didn't. And were they Mr. Barney? The conversation was occurring. He was there cleaning up. It was a big open room down in the main floor, and was around sweeping, and they were sweeping and cleaning windows, so we were all there. Oh, so he was in the room? Yeah, he was. Judge, given the length of the next set, it might be a good time to take a break, but I can keep it going if you want. Let's use the time. Okay. Scrocky, Mr. Olson, do you recall having any conversations at all during the investigation or towards the tail end with Mr. Barney about Mike Anderson? Not that I recall right off the top of my head. I may be able to look at 1023 and remember. Okay, well, we could certainly do that. Let's move on to another topic while we're talking about that. Did you have occasion to meet with Lonnie and Karen Vernon prior to March 10th and discuss the sale? Yes, we did. Of the silencers? Yes, we did. Do you recall where that meeting was? There again, I don't remember the specific location. Okay, Miss Olson, that's Exhibit 101. Yes, it is. Do you recall what that item is? Sir, it's one of the prepaid phones. And if you could, do you recognize that or receiving during the number of your work on the investigation? It was one of them. We had several phones that we were going around. Okay, we offer 101, no objection, 101 admitted. If it's a red phone on the back, the little sticker, the tag on the back, yeah, where you wrote the number down with the red phone. Okay, so that's your red phone. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's do this. Mr. Olson, let's go to Exhibit 30, and we'll deal with that tomorrow. So Exhibit 30, yeah, I'm here. Let's go to Exhibit 30.6. 30.5. Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. There's a chat between you and Mr. Cox. Yes, it is. And it's referencing Bill Fulton and the trucker, I think, or maybe it's referencing the trucker too, Han Solo. All right, as a marker for the time frame, if we use March 10th, how close in time are we getting towards March 10th? It's coming up. It's within, I would say, a week. Okay, because Fulton, they were real anxious about Fulton getting into town before Schaefer left. So, all right, this is discussing. Play the audio. So explain to the juries who Han Solo is. Han Solo is the trucker. The code name for Schaefer has given the trucker. You were having And you were having a discussion with him about the trucker arriving and planning to get him out of Alaska. Yeah. That's what I was referring to. The trucker could wait a couple of days until Bill got out of town with the silencers and the grenades. All right, let's go. Let's get through 30-6 audio. 2 of the 3 questions: where was the conversation? At Coleman Barney's house in the kitchen, and the rob, referring to the rob car we spoke about earlier in the testimony. Yeah, the gun dealer. And ultimately, did we go to see Mr. Carr? Yeah, we did. Were you obtained the lower receiver? That's when we picked up the lower receiver. Yes. Why did you suggest Mr. Cox sit down in the back seat? Because he wanted, and I didn't know if he wanted to sit in front where the people could see him. The back of my pickup, the 4-door, had tinted windows on the back door, so we could sit back there, and he on one of the trips back and from Lonnie's house, and he rode in the back seat. So I didn't know if he wanted to do it again or what, how he wanted to sit. Okay, quitting time, folks. Please follow my instructions. Don't discuss the case with each or anyone else. Don't let anyone talk to you about it. Don't read, view, listen, or any news accounts. Don't do any independent research about the case. Come back tomorrow morning at 8:30 and we will continue. You may be excused. This matter is in recess until tomorrow morning at 8:30. This court is adjourned subject to call. That's the end of this particular file.